see a lot of sunshine, unfortunately.
Yes.
I don't like it. very
Tomorrow,
much. Sunshine
62
tomorrow
and sunny.
We like that. It is a little
Yes.
weird because there's snow. I was thinking about this yesterday. There's still a fair amount of snow that's hanging out.
Yeah, it's weird.
In parking lots and on the side of the road and on the side of my house where the sun doesn't really get to it.
Right.
And I cannot remember a time where we had this much lingering snow in St. Louis for literally decades. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking
Seems
for.
like a long time.
How did everyone's weekend go, Sue?
Fast.
Yeah, it was fast.
But, well, I saw a Bulldog show, and, well, that might have been all I did. And I ate some really good Indian food.
Speaking
Yes.
of food, I do have cookies here.
Oh, what kind?
Well, last week I had promised these, and then my whole family ate them all up because I needed to double the recipe. But there are a couple of regular chocolate chips, but I made like the chocolate chips.
Now you're thinking.
Oh, they're good. A little baking cocoa, baking powder.
Uh-huh.
And they're excellent. So I brought some of those in for the crew here to enjoy on this Monday afternoon. We have a Doge freakout that continues. I'm a little sad, a little weepy here this morning. We lost a couple in the legacy media. Joy Reid has left us. She's still alive, I think, to my knowledge, but she's left MSNBC. And there's a lot of cheerleading about Joy Reid going on over the weekend, but I'm going to have to challenge that just a little bit just because, she provided me with a lot of material, like a lot of material over the years. Let's face it. Lester Holtz are also gone from NBC Nightly News. Did you hear that?
No.
What
happened there?
Here's what I think is happening. I think these are big salary dumps. I mean, the
Yeah.
ratings at MSNBC are certainly not anything to be proud of. And Joy Reid was probably making a fair amount of money. These NBC, the evening newscast gigs, that used to be the prime spot for anchors. But
Yeah.
who's watching those newscasts anymore?
When you said that, I thought, wow, I haven't watched Lester, and I can't remember when. I mean, I don't think a lot of people watch at all.
I don't either, and it's a little sad from the perspective that we all, I remember being in a habit, and it wasn't too long ago, I'd say 15 years ago, maybe just a little bit longer, but I know it was when before Brian Williams made up that he was, going to different places that he hadn't gone to. I was an NBC guy, and I would record the nightly newscast, and even when I would get home from doing the show, I would kind of use that as a bit of a marker for what the big stories were. And, obviously social media is driving all that, so you don't have to worry about it anymore, but it is a little weird. And when it comes to the state of journalism, I think it says a lot as well, because you don't have a lot of viewers that are putting their trust in the nightly news product, if you will. So I don't even know, Fred, did they say who's going to take over for Lester Holt?
No, they haven't.
And does it even matter, right?
Somebody who's
Not happening till the summer, I think.
But this person won't be 19 since it's network news. They'll be 20-something. That's
Right.
my guess.
Right, exactly. All right, so we're going to, I mentioned on Friday, I'm very excited to talk with Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal. She had a piece last week. A lot of people are calling this with Doge, a constitutional crisis. Kim Strassel's calling it a constitutional cleanup. And as we start this week, there's more, freak out that's going on about Trump cutting back on some of this nonsense out there. And it's amazing to me that this is the hill that a lot of the Democrats want to die on, because some of the the spending is just nonsense. We have Chris Rufo's out today with a pretty good piece in City Journal that came out over the weekend. And Chris is a guy, I was telling you this the other day, Fred, I was very frustrated because there's people that we kind of get early in on to a certain extent, because I sense that they're really pretty interesting people. And Chris Rufo was a guy that I noticed 4 or 5 years ago, and we had him on maybe 2 times. And then he blew up and had millions and millions of followers. But he's really been a person, along with, I'd say, Matt Taibbi's in this group, Mike Schellenberger, and a couple others, that really have exposed the media nonsense out there. And he's put a lot of things into perspective in ways that real journalists have been unable to do. And I'm going to give you a little example here, a salacious example here, as we get started this afternoon. So he wrote a piece called "The NSA's Secret Sex Chats." Now, you need to ask yourself these questions as we move forward with these examples. These are tax dollars that are, being used to pay for a lot of this stuff, and that's what Doge is all about. So the intelligence community, as he wrote in City Journal, is one of the most powerful parts of the American national security apparatus. In theory, it works tirelessly to keep the nation safe, but according to internal documents, some intelligence agency employees have another on-the-job priority: sex chats. I decided to lead with sex chats here on the show this afternoon because, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, sex sells. And we're going to have it sell here this afternoon because it really is stunning. They have sources within the NSA, one current employee and one former employee, who have provided chat logs from the NSA's Interlink messaging program. And according to a press official, all NSA employees sign agreements stating that publishing non-mission related material on Interlink is a usage violation and will result in disciplinary action. Nonetheless, these logs, dating back 2 years, are lurid, featuring wide-ranging discussions of sex, kink, polyamory, and castration as well. One popular, this is all on the government dime, okay? So let's think about the people out there that are fighting this and saying, oh, this is unfair. By the way, please remind me before the break to mention Chris Christie. Can somebody do that?
Yes,
I have a good
got
Chris
it.
Christie thing. So one popular chat topic was male to female transgender surgery, which involves surgically removing the penis and turning it into an artificial vagina. So from the chat logs, somebody says, mine is everything, said one male who claimed to have had gender reconstruction surgery. I found that I like being penetrated, but all the rest is just as important as well. Another, this is all on NSA chat logs, our
my
national security here.
gosh.
So another intelligence official boasted that genital surgery allowed him to wear leggings or bikinis without having to wear a gaff under it. So we have that going for us. These employees, Chris Rufo reports, discussed hair removal, estrogen injections, the experience of sexual pleasure post-castration. I'm going to, just because Sue's here, if Sue wasn't here, I'd probably go down this a little bit darker, but I
think
can
that's
always,
enough.
Bless you
I can
for
always
stopping.
I can always sense the judgment coming from just to my left here. Here's one that's just kind of, one transgender identifying Intel employee who spent thousands on hair removal said, getting my butthole zapped by a laser was shocking. I'll stop after that one. And then this, look, I just enjoy helping people experience boobs, said another about estrogen treatments. So,
Wow.
this is obviously going on when Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard are making the case that these intelligence agencies have gone woke, right? They're prioritizing left-wing activism over national security. Are these isolated incidents? Well, we can hope and pray that they are, because if they're not, I think we have bigger problems here. But
Well, even if it was just a normal sex chat, it's inappropriate on that platform.
not when you're, not when you're kind of pushing DEI, especially with the Alphabet Mafia. This is just part of who they are, Sue. Are you kidding me? According to the sources, the sex chats were legitimized as part of the NSA's commitment to DEI. Activists within the agency used LGBTQ plus employee resource groups to turn their kinks and pathologies into official work duties. According to the current NSA employee, these groups spent all day recruiting activists, holding meetings with titles such as privilege, ally awareness, pride, transgender community inclusion, and they did so with the full support of the NSA leadership, which declared that DEI was not only mission critical, but mission imperative. So, look, there are things happening right now with Doge, with Trump, with a lot of people, and they don't like him. But I would argue that you need to kind of wait for everything to settle down and really read the receipts, because the receipts are something. They really are. And if some people were reacting over the weekend because you had Charles C.Q. Brown Jr., who was the chief of staff of the Air Force, was also the Joint Chiefs chairman, was fired. And he was fired by Trump and by Pete Hegseth because he's all in on the DEI stuff. And he's been on the record. These are Obama people who became, in many instances, Biden people, and there's a new sheriff in town. I don't know what people want Trump to say. This is something that was promised, and they're keeping the promises. I love it. I support it. You know who doesn't support it, though? Chris Christie. Here's Chris Christie. He's got some problems here with Elon Musk and Trump.
I want to start with what Elon Musk did on Saturday, which is order all federal employees to list their accomplishments or basically be fired. Can he do that?
No, he can't. Let's look at it a few ways, Martha. First, from a legal perspective, you have a situation where it is a complete overstep for him to be asking people, what did you do in the last week?
All right, so let's stop right here, because I need to make sure that the audience is aware of the email that went out. Do you know about the email that went out from Elon and the Doge team that said, basically, you need to respond to this and tell us a few things that you did?
5 things you did in the past week.
Right.
Right. That's all it was.
well, that's a horrible thing to ask an employee that's working on the federal dime. So you can't ask someone what they did, and you can't ask a federal employee to justify their position. That's outrageous. Why would we want something like that, even though it was promised? All right, so he goes on about this.
And then use that as a basis to evaluate whether someone should be retained or fired. As with everybody's employment, things vary from week to week. And I think that if that went to court with an employee who was fired, if Mr. Musk and his minions didn't find what they did in the last week acceptable, there would be very little, if any, legal basis for them to be able to prevail, meaning the government.
Okay, so first of all, nobody cares what Chris Christie says. They really don't. I mean, he tried to make a bit of a comeback. I used to like Chris Christie, but now I guess he's going to be on the outside looking in again, so he's going to rip Elon. But this is really why I wanted to play that audio. It had nothing to do with what Chris Christie was saying. It has everything to do with Elon's response on the X, formerly Twitter, because there's a post of this ABC piece from Martha Raddatz, and Elon Musk chimes in, what did Chris Christie get done this week? And then he put in parentheses, buffet bars don't count. Ooh! I mean, it's a rough room out there in Washington and in Doge. And then there's the Maine governor. I want to talk about the Maine governor just a little bit because this became a topic over the weekend. And, I think it's important moving forward because this is so representative of what the Democrats are all about right now, refusing to understand that these are 80, 20, 90, 10 issues. Even Bill Maher kind of weighed in on this. But you heard what happened the other day when Trump was responding to the Maine governor. She was in the room at the National Governors Association, right? Fred, I can't remember the timetable of this. Did this happen on Friday or Thursday?
Or Friday.
Right. So she's in the room, and he's talking about issues related to, Title IX in particular, the women's issue, the trans sports issue. She's defying him on that. She continues to defy it, but this was what happened that morning.
Is the Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Well, I'm here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state.
Yeah, she says you'll see in court.
I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Yeah, so he accepts the challenge. So this, gets a lot of debate over the weekend, and there's a state rep out there. Actually, she's not a member of Congress, just a state rep in Maine. Her name is Laurel Libby, and she's been trying to highlight some of the stuff that's going on in Maine with a guy by the name of John Spencer. John Spencer is a pole vaulter in Maine. John, 2 years ago, finished 5th among the boys in pole vaulting in the state championships. John decided that he was a girl, okay, is transitioning, and is now trying to take opportunities away from women. And John, despite finishing 5th 2 years ago with the boys, just won the girls' pole vaulting state championship as Katie in Maine. So this Laurel Libby is trying to highlight this right now.
I heard this from a friend who is impacted and immediately felt, I have to post this and share because it's not fair. These girls, you look at the picture and there's a boy on the podium in first place, and there's 2 girls who tied for second place that would have won if not for biological male jumping in their category. That's just not fair for Maine girls.
It's not fair, but here's what's fascinating, and this is what happens with the media. The issue of fairness is not important to the media. The issue is, wait a second, listen to what the reporter says. Oh, but you, Laura Libby, you put a picture up of John. Why would you put a picture up of John beating the crap out of these girls, right?
Libby says she felt called to share this on her public Facebook, which now has more than 42,000 comments and counting.
What was the decision to post the photos of them? Why did you make that decision?
That individual is participating in a public event, a public sport.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even need to go on because she doesn't need to defend herself. They're very proud. The trans community is very proud of this. They should be proud of showing John taking opportunities away from women.
Have you paid any sort of price politically in terms of people reacting negatively at the very least as a result of speaking out on these issues?
Yeah, I've heard from Maine folks on both sides of the issue. I've heard folks, saying, thank you so much for speaking up. Our girls deserve to have a fair and level playing field. I've also heard from folks who are unhappy about my post.
So she's trying to keep it rather diplomatic at this time, but she is, standing up. But don't forget, like, when you hear about this story, and they're going to continue talking about the governor of Maine, and if this is what she's going to do to her state, that's the hill she's going to die on, to lose approximately $300 million in funding for her state. Go for it.
Yep.
Go for it. See how that kind of works out for you. But the real issue is about John Spencer. All right, it's not about the the state rep. It's not about the governor. It's about John Spencer, a pole vaulter, taking opportunities from young women. That's where the focus should be. That's where the question should be about. And somehow they never are. We got Kim Strassel from the Wall Street Journal coming up next.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
There is an accident on eastbound 64 headed into downtown, and it happens to be approaching Tower Grove Avenue. Now, this is past Kings Highway. They've got the two left lanes blocked. I just posted this on X at Susan6768 if you want to see what I'm talking about. But we already have a jam that goes back past Hampton. Now, there is a stall reported northbound 270 at McDonald Boulevard. Watch for that one in the left lane. Oh, it looks to me like they've got that cleared and off to the shoulder, and traffic is thinning out. Southbound 270, moderate volume. And this is approaching Olive, down through almost the Clayton Road overpass, and then moderate volume again, headed down toward 21. Southbound 55, slow pocket south of Arsenal, down through Rebus Barracks, and we look good on eastbound 40 headed for the Poplar. But eastbound 44 is slow due to road work, and it slows right there at the 55 split. This report brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, Lakeside Renovation and Design has been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, bathrooms, and outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, let's talk about Thomas Helbig and the Retirement Advisor Group. It is a family operation. Bob Kershaw is his nephew. Bob's wife, Tammy. They're always at our seminars that we host. We have another one coming up real soon in March. We'll get you registered for that in just the next couple of weeks. But if you're worried, if you're genuinely nervous about your nest egg, how much you'll have left, you may have gone into retirement, or at least thinking about retirement, maybe before the pandemic, and you thought you were in good shape, and then all of a sudden you started seeing inflation and market volatility, and now you're not so sure. So if you are wondering if you have enough money to retire comfortably, if you're looking for maybe a different approach to your finances, come in for a free retirement review. You'll get a copy of their latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. They've been helping clients retire with confidence for 38 plus years now. You can go to retirementkey.com, find out everything about Thomas and the team, see some of the, I think they even have some of the clips of the appearances that they've done here on 97.1 FM Talk, and then let them build your own personalized structured income plan. Don't wait for the seminar. Go into the office, show them that you're interested, and make them prove it to you when they say they've not lost a client of their penny's money. How is that possible? Bring the skepticism. They appreciate that at the Retirement Advisor Group. Start today by booking that appointment online at retirementkey.com.
Ever feel like there aren't enough hours in the day? If you get busy or miss your favorite show, don't worry. With Rewind, available exclusively on the free Odyssey app, you can stream your favorite shows on demand. You know your day is better with us. Get the news that matters to you from the local voices you trust. No matter what you're up to, give it a try. To get started, download the free Odyssey app and search for your station. That's AUDACY.
Window Nation customers have been singing our praises for years. With fast, local service and an industry-leading 96% customer satisfaction rating, it's no wonder.
I researched window companies for the last year to see what the average prices were and the quality of work. Window Nation nailed both.
Get 50% off all windows and 0% interest for 6 years. Hurry, this offer ends soon. Schedule a free estimate now. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air. Submit your favorite fish fry at 971talk.com/events. We're taking the show on the road every Friday during Lent, and we're looking for suggestions. It's Fish Fry Fridays on the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk. Oh, I'm very much looking forward to Fish Fry Fridays. We get started 1 week from this Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun, so be looking for all of the announcements on the location. So last week we heard a lot of this from the legacy media and those on the left. Constitutional crisis, right?
By definition, are we in a constitutional crisis?
Dangerously close to a constitutional crisis.
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 Yeah, they go on and on. And I don't know what the talking point will be from this week. There's probably going to be a different one. But I did appreciate the column on Friday by Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal. She called it a constitutional cleanup. And Kim Strassel is with us this afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk. How are you? Welcome back.
It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me again.
You wrote this column last week. Even since last week, like a lot has been happening and changing. It's kind of hard to keep up with the pace here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And look, I think that is partly because what you've got is this outside entity, and it's coming in and it's drinking in information like a fire hose and trying to deal with the immediate issues. I mean, I keep trying to explain to people that there are two different tracks happening here. There's a number of things that Donald Trump is doing that have been planned for years, and that is encompassed in a lot of his executive orders. And then there's all the China that Doge is breaking, and that's what's happening where they're getting it as they go.
So I want you to start maybe with the things that were planned for years. And I think that the theory that you have, and I think you're right here, is that a lot of this stuff is very much on purpose. Like they know that there are court challenges coming. They're prepared for those court challenges. Is that one interpretation of what's happening?
Yeah, I think they're actually courting those court challenges. They are attempting to trigger them. And a good example of that is Donald Trump firing some of these people who work at what we call independent agencies. And these outfits, we now have more than 100 of them in Washington. Congress created them. They're essentially congressional minions, and they're everything from the National Labor Relations Board all the way up to the Federal Communications Commission. And when Congress made them, they made them so that the president, while he got to appoint the people who sit on their boards or at the top of the organization, he couldn't remove them and he couldn't tell them what policy to do. And he is firing them purposely to get a lawsuit, litigation, to challenge the constitutionality of that setup at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and this is where I think a little history is in order, and I think you offered this in the column. But if we go back to the way that all of this sort of had gotten out of control in the first place, the way that the bureaucratic state, grew immensely. Now, I think that the Chevron case plays into some of this as well, but there's an opportunity to dismantle a lot of things that just grew completely out of control and were just dealt with administration after administration, Republican or Democrat, as status quo.
Oh, absolutely. And I put that in two categories. One is this area, again, where Congress created all these agencies that have massively swelled the bureaucracy. And again, for every big one, like an SEC or a Federal Communications Commission or a Federal Elections Commission, I mean, there are dozens upon dozens of these. There are smaller ones as well, too. And they're all these little independent actors that are very disturbing if you think about it, because in many ways, these outfits are not necessarily accountable to the president, but they have more authority than even departments in Washington these days. So there's that chunk. The other chunk is what you just noted, the bureaucrats within them who have expanded their power over the years and made up stuff that Congress did not authorize them to do. And that's the other thing the administration is doing, is it's running all those regulations back through a typewriter to look at them and decide whether or not they exceed congressional authority. And if they do, as a result, they are maybe null and void.
How does one even keep track of all this and the pace at which it will move through the courts? Because while I understand the purpose and I appreciate the purpose, how do you really even end up with some final answers here that are clear, Kim?
It's going to be tough. And again, this is why I keep putting things in categories. There's going to be a bunch of these lawsuits that are brought that are just nonsense, okay? Because when it comes down to it, the president has a great deal of authority over managing his own workforce. So some of these firings, some of these other moving people around, Schedule F, which has gotten all this attention, which involves recategorizing civil employees in a way that makes some of them who have very important jobs easier to fire or transfer to new positions. He's going to win in court. And I just put those almost to the side. The people who are litigating those are doing that slowly to shut it down, slow it down. They're not going to win in the end. The bigger ones, they could take several years of working through the court system, and that could leave some things in real limbo. But that's what you have to confront and do if you want real change in D.C.
Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal is here talking about what she calls Trump's constitutional cleanup. People ask me, I'm sure they ask you this too, do you really support what he's doing? And my answer is, yeah, I do, because I've been waiting for decades for something like this. And I've had expectations that have been built, and I've seen blue ribbon panels, and I've read the Simpson-Bowles report and all these things. And the way that you closed this column from last week, I appreciate it, because you basically said vigorous debate over the powers and structure of government ought to be a feature of every administration. What should worry us isn't what Mr. Trump is doing now, but that our drowsy political system considers it an anomaly. And I put blame on Republicans here as well, because they have culpability in all this. And I think that that's why a lot of people are struggling with the speed at which this is happening.
Yeah, I would argue we have been on autopilot for 30 years now, at least 30 years. I mean, the last vigorous executive we came in and we had like a real debate that involved actually taking some dramatic action was Ronald Reagan. When I think about that, for example, he fired the air traffic controllers, right? Everyone said, oh, my God, what are you doing? You can't do it. And he's like, look, without this, nothing is going to change. And then we just had, as you note, endless congressional commissions and blue ribbon panels, and Al Gore was going to reinvent government. And what came of any of that? Nothing. And over that time, government's slowly grown. We're now, how many checks are we sending out to dead people every week? Because we can't even keep track of our payment systems. Something dramatic had to happen. And yeah, part of that may be having some really big debates about the powers that are vested in the executive versus Congress and what role these bureaucrats play, if any, and who they report to. Those are important discussions to have take place, especially with government as big as it is right now.
What do you make, one of the things that I've said, and I think there's plenty of room in the Wall Street Journal or CBS News or wherever to do reporting on some of the serious questions that, people might have about the process of DOJ, whether there are constitutional issues, et cetera. But it strikes me as just, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised anymore, going back a week, I didn't watch 60 Minutes from last night. They do this story last week with USAID, and they feature these employees. And Kimberly, not in one, I watched the whole thing. They don't at any point even point to that one bit of the spending issues. Like, it's not even mentioned. And I see this a lot in the rest of the legacy media. They're going after, Musk as President Musk or whatever, unelected bureaucrat, all these things. But a lot of this, they don't even want to touch the questions about the spending.
Yeah, the double standard of this just blows me away. On the one hand, we get the press constantly moaning that DOJ isn't more transparent and isn't telling us every single thing they do. And then they go and run these stories that just completely ignore entire facets of the story involved. I mean, look, the thing that I don't understand either about the media or Democrats who are opposing this at the moment is that, we as a country can disagree about what the general size and scope of government should be. And we have real disagreements on that. But what most Americans agree is that dysfunctional government is a problem, meaning even if you think we should have a big government that's doing lots of social services, people agree they generally do a poor job of it. And they have a lot of waste and fraud and abuse, and they don't hold themselves to the same standard that's expected in any private company or any other organization. So fix it. And when you see these people complaining like, oh man, like, oh gee, how can you cut this dollar here or there? They don't seem to understand that is what the vast majority of Americans want to see happen. They want accountability.
Exactly. And what I said last week, not to root for anyone to not get a paycheck or not be able to support their family, but they've been so insulated for literally decades that this is unusual. Look, Starbucks is laying off employees. Southwest Airlines had some layoffs. These are not great things for the economy, but it's the reality of, how businesses have to deal with their employees because of profit. et cetera. So I think one of the issues for federal employees, unfortunately, is they've just never had to deal with this in their entire lives.
Well, and that's just it. Look, and we need to be very sympathetic. There's a lot of people, it's very easy to just categorize this as the swamp, the deep state. Everybody's an individual, okay? And there are people that work for the federal government who work hard, they're dedicated to their jobs, they're experts at what they do. But there's also a lot of people that don't work so hard. I mean, it's just the same as in any workforce. You look around, you see it. I look around, you see it. It's the same everywhere. So we can't throw all the baby out with the bathwater, but we also can't assume that there is no place in government where there aren't efficiencies to be made, and that there isn't greater accountability to be had.
Thank you, Kimberly Strassel. Well stated. Great column from last week. Always happy to have you on here in St. Louis. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great week. That's Kimberly Strassel, who is one of the opinion writers and a really good one at the Wall Street Journal. And I kind of referenced this with the Elon Musk memo. So on Saturday, and this got a lot of media attention and people are freaking out, federal workers got this email instructing them to document 5 things that they accomplished in the past week. And the email said those who don't reply would risk losing their jobs. This was sent from the Office of Personnel Management. It's called OPM. The subject line was, "What did you do last week?" It instructed recipients to reply with 5 examples of what they got done last week, excluding any classified information, and asked workers to include their supervisor in their response. So on X, he said failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. He said that the directive was consistent with President Trump's instructions. The email itself did not include the threat of forced resignation. Now, I guess the deadline is tonight at midnight. There are 3 agencies that told workers to ignore the request and not to reply. So you got that going for you. You have President Trump being asked about this today, defending it.
I thought it was great because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. I think everyone thought it was a pretty ingenious idea. We have to find out where these people are. Who are they? And we said, if you don't respond, we assume you're not around.
Well, not everyone thought it was a brilliant idea. And by the way, the newly appointed director of the FBI, Kash Patel, they halted the responses at the FBI. So he basically said FBI personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The FBI, through the Office of the Director, is in charge of all of our review processes and will continue reviews in accordance with the FBI procedures. When and if further information is required, we will coordinate responses. For now, please pause any responses. The State Department also directed employees to disregard the email, with an official telling employees that the department will reply on behalf of employees. No employee is obligated to report their activities outside of their department chain of command. So basically, you have some of the folks in the inside of government saying, wait a second, don't respond. You have Elon Musk still trying to get answers, and you have President Trump saying, well, I kind of like it. Now, if you heard between the lines there, what Trump is basically saying is it seems to that they're trying to root out some of this stuff because if they don't get responses, where is that person?
Exactly.
Like, donde está the federal employee
Right.
if they're not responding to the email? Now, to me, it sounds like such a big, all-encompassing effort. There's so many email addresses and so many people. I don't know how you'd have people plucking through those effectively, but, man, you'd think that he just took a bag of puppies and drowned them.
Yes.
The way that they react to some of this stuff. We're coming back. Sue's News in the next hour as well.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, the big issue we've had this afternoon has been an accident on eastbound 6440 right before Tower Grove Avenue, and that's just a little east of Kings Highway. And they've got the 2 left lanes blocked, and that continues to be the case. And we have a jam that goes back past Hampton. Now, there's also an accident reported. This one is southbound 270 at Ladue Road, and it's in the left lane. So if you are trying to get southbound 270 down through 6440, that is the cause of the holdup. So expect a delay right now, and they've moved it from the left lane kind of off to the right shoulder, which is also a ramp lane, and it really hasn't made things much better through there. Southbound 55, slow pocket south of Arsenal through Rebus Barracks. Eastbound 44 jams at the 55 split. And we've got some volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and on northbound 5570 approaching 157, where we've got ongoing road work. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hair Volume is the best-selling hair tablet in the world and one of many award-winning natural hair products from New Nordic. Purchase at newnordicusa.com or CVS. That's newnordicusa.com.
We may be out of the woods when it comes to like ice and snow. We don't know though. March you can get snow. You could get in April, but we know that tornadoes are probably right around the corner. And I bring this up because I want you to get a Generac home standby generator at Generator Supercenter here in St. Louis. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. I've mentioned I have a son in Houston, even parts of Texas last week because of ice and weather. We're out of power. My son's been out of power for 2 different stretches of 5 days or more in the last couple of years. They don't sell portable generators. These are beautiful, really, really dependable Generac home standby generators. The #1 Generac generator dealer in the country is Generator Supercenter. So if you want peace of mind, call for a free estimate. No more waiting on hold, calling the power company. You know this is devastating. It affects your life, affects your family, your food spoils, all of these things. You don't have to worry about it when you're away with a Generator Supercenter Generac generator. So call today for a free estimate. 314-499-2020. They do have a showroom here in the Chesterfield area. You can go online as well, GeneratorSuperCenterofSt.Louis.com. Call Generator Supercenter today. It's a free estimate. Tell me about it. You heard about it here on 97.1 FM Talk. They have financing available with low monthly payments. It's going to give you peace of mind. Generator Supercenter of StLouis.com.
Do you ever wonder if you've saved enough to retire? Discover how you could make your money go a lot further in retirement in a 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. Hey guys, it's Dave Glover here. This one-night class is taught by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects with decades of financial planning experience, and they're held at colleges and libraries throughout St. Louis. You'll learn about reducing your taxes, maximizing your Social Security, paying for health care, and more. There's no cost. We would ask that you bring 3 canned goods that we're going to pass on to the St. Louis Crisis Nursery. So you have 2 jobs when it comes to retirement, in my humble opinion. One is saving the money, putting it away. And then the other, just as important, is how do you take it out and what do you do with it after that? Find out at Retirement Planning 101. Simply call 314-350-8110. Again, no money necessary. 314-350-8110. 350-8110.
Is your home, business, or church looking tired, chalky, or in need of curb appeal? Go Rhino. Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino. Our unique 3M ceramic technology is perfect for brick, stucco, aluminum, steel, color lock masonite, and more. It's backed by our 25-year transferable warranty to not chip, crack, or peel. Great if you're staying, and even better if you're selling. Our ceramic coating allows you to maintain all of your architectural features. The decision to do vinyl will leave your home looking like a plastic moldy box. With Rhino Shield, in 15 years, your home will still have that, wow, it looks like you just got it painted. We've done large condo complexes, parking garages, pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
No paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Tuesday, there's an effort to bring back the Second Amendment Preservation Act. We'll talk to our friends from the Missouri Firearms Coalition at 7:35.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
A couple of people who passed away over the weekend that we'll highlight right before Sue's News and during Sue's News. That's coming up after the top of the hour. We have Pete Sepp, who's with the National Taxpayers Union. You know, we have big tax breaks that need to be renewed, the Trump tax breaks from the original administration. I want to get Jason Smith on here soon. He is, of course, the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. That's the tax writing committee. And Jason is a Missouri representative. But we're trying, you know, these members of Congress, Sue, they're a little harder to nail down here in the opening days of the Trump administration, which I think is good news, quite honestly, because I think that means they're working for the American people because things are busy. on Capitol Hill right now. Cusumano's going to join us at 4:45. We'll talk a little spring training, and the Blues were back at it over the weekend. Mizzou not faring well on Saturday. I'm not sure what SLU did over the weekend, but Frank's going to fill us all in on that. John Seiler, who is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, has a great piece about hiring radicals at universities, and he'll be with us in the 5 o'clock hour. We have a mayoral race, Sue, as you know, that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, and we talked about this on the roundtable on Friday. There would be, in theory, some pretty exciting things about the city of St. Louis potentially happening. We had Cordish announced as a developer for the Millennium Hotel. They're going to tear that down, and it's going to be mixed retail and residential, and I think, was there some business and commercial in there as well?
I read somebody today who said, oh, yeah, what interesting timing. So close to the mayoral race is this announcement. And I thought, And I get texts, since I live in the city, from the mayor. St. Louis deserves a mayor that isn't bought and paid for by billionaire developers. Mayor Tashara Jones has our backs.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way, shape, or form does she? Now,
yeah,
look,
no mention.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you what's going to happen with this mayoral race. And keep in mind, there's 2 rounds. So the top 2 finishers will run off, and
Right.
there'll be another race in a
Rank
couple weeks.
choice.
Yeah, that's goofy. But regardless, most of the experts, including those that we have here on the roundtable, and the Democrats like Jane Jeff Rainford, who used to be the chief of staff for Mayor Slay, et cetera, most people, if you ask them, does Tashara have a chance, they'll say not only does she not have a chance, but she might not finish in the top 2. Now, keep in mind that these things are fluid and things change, and there weren't a lot of people before Cori Bush took out Congressman Clay saying, hey, Reardon, Cori Bush is going to beat Congressman Clay. So sometimes there's surprises.
Right,
right. And maybe in this case, in the other direction, I don't know. I think she's in trouble. I really do. She did a sit-down interview with Megan Lynch from KMOX, and I just have to play you some of these answers because there's just...
I'm fascinated. I can't wait to hear this.
No acceptance of responsibility whatsoever. I mean, nothing that's happened in this city that has been bad has been her fault whatsoever. And you can just hear it bleeding through. And it's going to be pretty comical for her to do an autopsy on what went wrong. I don't know if everyone will, or anyone will share that with her. It's kind of like Kamala. She's out there doing her appearances right now. She was at the fire in Palisades, still speaking nonsense. I think maybe she thinks she might be governor in California. I have no idea if that's possible. All right, so here's Megan. Some of the questions I left on here with Tish.
Tell me what you've learned from your first term in office.
If I've learned anything in my first term in office is that people who haven't run anything think they can change everything.
What?
I just have to play. Yeah, she. You want me to play it again? She essentially is claiming, look, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that all this stuff is going on because I don't control it all. So talk to the people who control it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's basically what she's saying.
Job is a lot harder than people think. The mayor is not responsible for everything. We have a tripartite form of government, which means that all money spent have to be approved by myself, the comptroller, and the president of the Board of Aldermen. And there are other departments that I don't control at all. We have 6 citywide or countywide elected officials.
So keep in mind, 2 weeks out from a mayoral election, she's a one-term mayor. She's going to go down in history as a one-term failed mayor in the city of St. Louis. She just wants to blame everyone else, saying, you know what, that's not really my department. It's someone else's department.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Delivery of city services, which you've kind of alluded to, has been a key issue in this race. What would you say to critics who are pointing to things like snow removal, trash removal, responsiveness of city departments as a reason to change leadership?
I would say that they should look at previous administrations because we've had these same problems in previous administrations, but somehow it's a problem under me.
I mean, it's just...
That isn't true. I mean, I've lived in the city for 20-some years. None of that is accurate.
Well, what she says is, and to a certain extent, they don't really plow the side roads. That's her case. Well, how about the main roads out here, right? How about Market? How about Tucker? How about some of the main roads, not the side roads?
Exactly. This was a completely different deal. And you heard Donna Behringer talk about how they used to have a plan under Slay, and it was handled so much better.
Look, something as easy as the streets director going out and driving the streets and assessing the situation, which did not happen in this particular storm. And then when the second one came a couple of weeks ago, the streets director was on surgery, recovering from surgery, couldn't do their job, of course. So I think crime comes up here. Let's see.
And no one can tell me that has filed this bill or supports this legislation how it's going to make St. Louis safer. Because if a state-controlled police department was the model for law enforcement, then Kansas City should be the safest place on earth. But we all know in 2023, Kansas City had more murders than St. Louis. And even today, as we're talking, Kansas City still has more homicides than St. Louis.
Okay, you know what else Kansas City has? Well, wait a second here. That's a fair point, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about St. Louis. We got all this crime here in St. Louis. Why would we unfairly blame the mayor of St. Louis, who is doing everything she can to help us, right? Here's the problem. Did you know that Kansas City's population is 230,000 people more than we have? So let's say there's more murders in Kansas City. Yeah, you know what, Tish? The population is 511,000 people. Ours is 282,000 in the city of St. Louis. Those are numbers from 2023.
That's right. And the reason that we're going back to state control is she has tried everything to not work with the police, not give them enough resources, and that's what we're left with. Plus, I don't trust any statistics that come out of her office.
No, because they've been proven to be lies, misleading, and wrong. I think I have one more here.
Mayor, what are we not talking about enough?
We are not talking about enough that, again, I think we talked about it already, that the mayor's not responsible for everything, right? And that I think we're not talking about enough that.
So I think I cut it off because it didn't matter. What are we not talking about enough? Well, we're not talking about enough that this is not my fault. It's everyone else's fault because I have no responsibility here whatsoever.
Mark. It's outrageous.
But, here's the I think people hear right through that. I mean, that was an embarrassing. I started getting text messages this morning when that was airing on KMOX.
Did you really?
Yeah, because it was just embarrassing. And she's up against it right now. I think that the writing is on the wall, but people have to vote. That's the other thing. You can't go into Election Day in a couple of weeks assuming that this is going to happen because, and by the way, is that just a week from tomorrow?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You're the city resident. I got to figure out
and
when
I don't
this
know.
is. Well,
you're going to have to tell me.
Because I don't want to keep saying 2 weeks when it's next week. Things are coming. March is coming upon us very, very quickly. Like, I literally had to look at the calendar today and say, oh, this is the last week of February, right?
Yeah.
March 4th. When is March 4th? That's next Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's coming up, and then you got a runoff at the end or the beginning of April. So Tish's last days and her last days to spread the blame around, they're coming up very, very quickly.
It's not her fault.
We got Sue's News coming up.
If you missed anything, podcast The Mark Reardon Show at 971talk.com. Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Accident eastbound 6440, and this is approaching Tower Grove. So that's just east of Kings Highway. They've got the left lanes blocked, and it's been there a while. We've got a jam that goes back through Hampton. Now, a lot of volume southbound 55 in the construction zone, south of Arsenal, down through Revis Barracks. Some volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. We've got southbound Route 3 really jammed south of the Poplar, headed down toward Monsanto Avenue. And the accident that was southbound on 270, really close to Ladue Road, they moved it from the left lane off to the right in the construction zone. And that's still causing a delay, but it's a little bit better. Slowing back through Page. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Sponsored by Robert Half.
9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Our recruiting professionals utilize an award-winning AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today.
I have mentioned a couple times recently, I have two friends that are going through divorces. These are very, very tough situations. One I had not heard from in a while, and I reached out a few weeks ago and didn't even know the situation because it's not something you brag about to your friends. And then it kind of made sense that I hadn't heard from from him in a while. So in order to get through this faster, I always recommend someone who has experience in this area of the law, because I, sort of can speak from experience here. When I hired a lawyer 23 years ago, when I was going through my divorce, I went to someone who was an attorney friend. I said, hey, I need a family practice attorney. And she said, hey, here's a guy that I know that's new at this. That was probably not the best thing. I realized it too late. Susan L. Ward is rated AV preeminent by Martindale-Hubbell. That's a rating given to her by other attorneys, showing that an attorney has reached the height of professional excellence. She's got a great team here in St. Louis, multiple locations, and they're there for you if you need any help in this area of the law. 314-783-9400, the website stlfamilylaw.com. Susan L. Ward, the focus on family law, and the emphasis on you.
Make this the year you upgrade your backyard with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Mark Cox here. Mention my name. You're going to get 48 months interest-free financing on that great outdoor project. You will love working with my friends at Chesterfield Fence. They do free in-home estimates at no obligation, free project design in case you've got something in mind already. Maybe you need a new fence. They do wood and vinyl. Those vinyl fences, low maintenance, lifetime product. You can do aluminum, steel, or chain link fences as well. And when it comes to decks, nobody does it better. Beautiful natural cedar decks. They've got the vinyl decking as well, which is maintenance free and a beautiful array of colors. Plus, they do custom sunrooms, pergolas, screen rooms, even retaining walls and patio doors. So you could talk to my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Tell them Mark Cox sent you. They are Better Business Bureau accredited with an A+ rating. Go online today at chesterfieldfence.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon from my friends at Zero Res. February, of course, is the month for love. And when's the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it really deserves? Have you gotten down on your hands and knees and adored how clean and refreshed it was? Or are you scared about what you might see or smell? Probably the latter. Keep in mind, not only is your carpet one of the biggest investments in your home, it's the biggest air filter in your home. So if your carpet hasn't been professionally cleaned, you're breathing unhealthy levels of nasty dirt, dander, and bacteria. So during the month of February, Zero Res is going to take care of that. It's the Love Your Rug special. Get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at $119, plus a 4th room clean for free. And don't forget Dirt and Dander's favorite hiding place. That's your air ducts. This month, take $75 off when you get your air ducts professionally cleaned. Zero Res cleaned. Call Zero Res now at 314-474-2020. Make sure you mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk to get the special for the month of February. Call now, 474-2020, or online at ZeroResSTL.com. You spell it backward or forward, it spells the same. Zero Res. Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com. Sports wagering in Missouri has been delayed. It sucks. It's a bunch of BS. We'll talk about it, though, right before Sue's News after Fox News.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
An optimistic view from the White House. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. President Trump suggesting the war in Ukraine could end within weeks as the U.S. continues to push peace talks with Russia.
This is the right time. It may be the only time. That's a very interesting and horrible situation, and that could evolve into a third world war. We're not going to let that happen.
At a joint news conference with the French president, President Trump telling reporters Russia's President Putin would accept European peacekeepers in Ukraine. President Putin later saying in televised remarks that he and President Trump have not discussed details on resolving the conflict. President Trump calls an Elon Musk email to federal workers ingenious, while downplaying some departments telling workers not to answer the email's demand to list recent accomplishments.
And they don't mean that in any way combatively with Elon. They're just saying there are some people that you don't want to really have them tell you what they're working on last week.
The president also echoing Musk's suggestion the email is necessary to reveal which federal workers are actually working. That email prompting a new union lawsuit, though, over its threat of possible firings. Earlier today, the Department of Government Efficiency losing a round in court.
It's a temporary loss for Elon Musk and his team at Doge. A federal judge blocked members of Doge from accessing data from the Department of Education Education and the Office of Personnel Management. The judge said the Education Department, OPM, likely violated federal law by giving Doge access to Social Security numbers, income, home addresses, phone numbers for student aid recipients and former and current government employees.
Fox's David Spunt, a different federal judge ruling in a different case last week, Doge can have access to student data in the Education Department. A federal judge just rejecting a temporary restraining order against the White House over Associated Press access to White House events, but the judge is urging the government to reconsider restrictions imposed after AP refused to use Gulf of America. America is listening to Fox News.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-Week Challenge. The Metamucil 2-Week Challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 Fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Through our Monday afternoon, lots of sunshine, 62 for the high. Tonight, partly cloudy, 42 for the overnight low. Tuesday, sunny, right back to 62. Clouds on Tuesday night, 44. Wednesday, mix of clouds and sunshine. Some very light rain showers developing Wednesday afternoon. It's not much, 59. Only slightly cooler on Thursday. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
I'm Chad Robison with Your Money Now. An amended lawsuit challenges a threat by Elon Musk to U.S. federal workers, warning them to respond to an email demanding them submit a list of their accomplishments over the past week or face a forced resignation. The filing in California federal court comes amid reported confusion and controversy over whether employees must respond to that email at all from the Office of Personnel Management. Stocks were mixed today on Wall Street, with the Dow gaining 33 points, the S&P 500 dropped 29, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq lost more than 1.2%, good enough for 237 points. Shares of Palantir tumbled again today, adding to last week's fall of 15% as the tech and defense company shows signs of sputtering. Shares are currently down more than 1%. U.S. crude oil futures for April remain under $71 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's Izervay.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
All right, Missouri sports fans, great news. Underdog Fantasy is available to play in our state, and we have football season behind us. During basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, or you can go to the NHL, you're going to have an opportunity to win some money from watching sports with Underdog. My wife has had some success even recently on this. Yesterday, she went to the, I don't know why she did this, but she did it, the USC-Rutgers game. She had Wesley Yates from USC with higher than 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists, so that's all combined, and he had 24. Desmond Claude with higher than, just basically had to hit 1 3-pointer, and he did. And Dylan Harper from Rutgers needed 22.5 points and assists. In fact, he had 29 points and assists combined. So that's how you do it. You choose a dollar amount, and you have some fun with the Champions game, and it's really, really easy. And you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Millions of fans, including my wife, have won billions making plays on Underdog. You get started by downloading the app at the App Store. Sign up using the promo code MarkR. So you'll put your email in there, your username, your password, of course, and then use the promo code MarkR to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun with Underdog. When you sign up with that promo code MarkR, claim that special offer today. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon your first deposit. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Being first in line can be very important to homeowners. First in line for the plumber, first in line for the HVAC guy, first in line for Banner Construction. It's Banner Construction's winter home event, and you can be first in line this spring and save before the annual price increases. Banner Construction is a James Hardy and Pella Winter replacement specialist, and now is the best time to schedule a free in-home consultation with no obligation. Call 314-569-1050 or see them online and have a banner day.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
Monday afternoon on the Mark Reardon Show. We got Sue's News coming up here. We're going to talk some tax policy at 4:25 with Pete Sepp, who is with the National Taxpayers Union, Cusumano, a little bit later in this hour. You know, I was just talking about Underdog Fantasy, and that's a little different. The fantasy wagering apps are a little different than sports wagering. And, of course, we voted to approve barely sports wagering in Missouri last fall. And our friend, Fred, this is from our friend Alex Gold over in Kansas City, who has become a great resource for us on the sports wagering topic and on some of the Chiefs stuff as well. But he broke this story this morning. Missouri sports betting launch has been delayed. Secretary of State Denny Hoskins rejected the emergency rules. The go-live date will now be pushed back into the fall. Now, by law, we must launch sports betting by December 1st, 2025. I was told that it was going to basically kick in this summer. I have a message out to the Secretary of State to see if we can get him on the air to talk about this, because this would make a lot of people, including me and my wife, and a lot of other folks, not happy. I mean, what in the world is taking so long, and why can't you implement that? So we'll get with Alex and maybe the Secretary of State tomorrow. It was the SAG Awards last night, and Jane Fonda was honored for Lifetime Achievement. And, of course, woke is the bad word in Washington, but at the SAG Awards, they still love it.
Make no mistake, empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means you give a about other people. A whole lot of people are going to be really hurt by what is happening, what is coming our way. And even if they're of a different political persuasion, we are going to need a big tent to resist successfully what's coming at us.
Yeah,
that'll help award shows numbers, won't it?
You know, she sounded a lot like Hillary Clinton there. I don't know
She
why.
did.
Yeah.
No, she did. They're lost. They really are. But keep using the word woke. By the way, or woke. Conclave won for Outstanding Cast last night. That was the film that just won the BAFTA. In the SAG Awards, they don't award Best Picture.
Right.
It's an acting award, so they just give it for Outstanding Cast. Timothy Chalamet won for A Complete Unknown. I thought he was fantastic in that. He won Best Actor. Demi Moore for The Substance won Best Actress. She's kind of on a roll. These are all as were the Critics' Choice Awards and the Golden Globes, the precursor, of course, to the Oscars, which I believe takes place next week. By the way, your favorite show, at least one of your favorite shows,
Only Murders,
won Ensemble in a comedy series. Shogun won Ensemble in a drama series. I've heard that's really good.
Yeah, I have too.
I haven't checked it out.
Me
And
neither.
actor in a drama series, Hiroyuki Sanada, who was in that show, and then Anna Sawai, and I might be mispronouncing these names, one for Shogun as well. Hey, look at that. Marty Short won for Only Murders in a Building, right?
Yep.
Baby Reindeer, Jessica Gunning. I did love that show on Netflix, so there you go. I also thought, and maybe Fred, as our KMOX across the other side of the building religion editor, the Pope's not in very good shape right now, is he?
No. No, he's 88 years old. He's been in the hospital in Rome since like a week ago Friday, so we're going on 10 days now. He's battling, he went in with like severe bronchitis. He's battling double pneumonia. Over the weekend, they said he started showing signs of kidney failure. Today's report is a little bit better. They said he got medicine. He slept through the night. They're no longer worried about his kidney function at this moment. And he is awake, and he took a couple phone calls, and he's doing some work. So it was bad on Sunday. They're looking a little bit better today, but his doctors say he's still in guarded position, guarded condition.
How long's he been Pope? Does anybody know?
Well, Fred would know this.
Yeah, since 2013.
Oh, okay.
Cardinal Dolan weighing in, sounding rather
bleak.
Bleak would be the word, yes.
Look, we got to be kind of realistic as he is. When you get double pneumonia in anybody, you're worried. I mean, if a child gets double pneumonia. When you got double pneumonia in an 88-year-old man who's only got 75% of his lung capacity and who's struggling with arthritis and a bunch of stuff, it's not looking good. I admire his grit. I admire his resilience. I'm praying with him and for him. But I think we have to be realistic, as he certainly is.
Can I ask a stupid question of you? Well, look, I appreciate his honesty. I love Cardinal Dolan. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Lutheran anymore, but I really like him a lot. I think a lot of people, obviously, from St. Louis do with the roots here. Is there any possibility that he eventually becomes a pope, Fred, or is that just nonsense talk?
It's going to be super, super hard for any American to ever become a pope.
Okay.
Right.
So that's what I thought. Okay, that answers the question.
There you go.
And then one other thing I wanted to point out, we were looking for some audio because I interviewed him on several occasions, and this was a part of history. Clint Hill is the Secret Service agent who leapt onto the back of President Kennedy's limousine. Maybe it's leaped. I might have used the grammar incorrectly there.
That's all right.
After President Kennedy was shot, he was alongside the First Lady at the time. And, Clint, to probably his dying minutes, had deep regrets and was very, very pained by the fact that he couldn't do more to stop what happened on that day. He wrote a book about it.
I was going to say, did he say anything about conspiracy theories or, what was his take?
No, he testified before the Warren Commission. You can see, if you watch the Zapruder film, you'll see him jumping on the car. He grabs the handle of the limousine's, trunk and pulls himself onto it. I don't remember him ever talking about any conspiracies related to that. By the way, he was basically the character that Clint Eastwood based In the Line of Fire.
Oh, wow.
To a certain extent.
Have you played his cut from today?
So this is
from
some
earlier
archive cut, right? Yeah.
If I had reacted just a little bit quicker, my grave.
You got there in less than 2 seconds, Clint. You couldn't have gotten there. You surely don't have any sense of guilt about that.
Yes, I certainly do. I have a great deal of guilt about that. Had I turned in a different direction, I'd have made it.
So that was a very emotional interview that Clint Hill did with Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes, and that was in 1975. If you fast forward to, and Mike Wallace wrote a book about all this called Between You and Me. It was his biography, and he talked about that interview as perhaps the most moving and emotional of his career. And then in 2006, they reunited on Larry King's show, Clint Hill and Mike Wallace, and they had a conversation. But you could just hear, and I met him after that appearance, so it was probably 10, 12 years ago, because he came through town, Fred. I don't know why, but he was here for some reason.
Did he have a book of some sort?
Yes, but is that why he came? Maybe he was doing an event at the library or something like that. But I'll never forget, because we had him we developed
like
a
the
relationship
Wash
with him.
U speaker series, or
Something like that.
Yeah.
But we met him, but I also remember calling him back and having him weigh in on a couple of these things.
Yeah.
We did think of him, honestly, Fred and I talked about him last summer when it happened in Butler, just because we would typically get reaction from someone, but he has gotten to the age, and obviously Clint Hill has passed away at the age of 93. So that's a sad note for today. But we'll do this. We got a lot to cover, including another celebrity death.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Well, first we're going to have a little bit of music that isn't related to our celebrity death, because 49 years ago today, in 1976, the Eagles' greatest hits album became the very first album in the U.S. ever to be certified platinum for selling 1 million copies. Ever.
And then it sold like 30 million or something like that.
Yeah, that was
right?
just the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
City girls just seem to find out early.
I do like the Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the celebrity death that Mark's referring to is Roberta Flack. Singer Roberta Flack has passed away at 88.
Rose in your eyes.
This is the first time I ever saw your face, and I was listening to this song earlier today because we sent some music to Ethan, and this is such a slow song, and I'm thinking I had to have heard this on the radio, because where else would I have heard this song? But it is really slow.
Well, she's got something to say. It's touching.
I know, but it's not one of those songs like you would think, hey, let's go to the radio in 1975 and listen to Roberta Flack, but I guess that's what we were doing.
Well, Janis Ian had a lot of sad, slow songs, too, around that.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, this was her second Grammy winner, Killing Me Softly, and it was in 1974. Now, she won Grammys 2 years in a row. 73 for The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, as Mark Reardon says, slow song, and then this one in 74. P.S. Her middle name was Cleopatra, which I kind of love. Roberta Cleopatra Flack passed away.
This is a great song, though. And that's just like, the intro part there.
Fugees redid it.
Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. See, now I might have to go back and listen to a little Roberta Flack.
Yeah, Roberta Flack.
It's certainly a different vibe, even for the 70s. I mean, there were a lot of songs like this, to your point.
Yeah.
But for them to be hits was rather unique.
You're right. And she was a child.
Sorry, I had to get the vocals now. Go ahead, Sue.
Child prodigy at the piano. And she just kind of went from there. And she also, remember that song, Where is the Love, in 1970? Where is the love? Yeah. That was her with Donny Hathaway, and they had a couple of
hits, right? Yeah.
And The Closer I Get to You in 1978, and then he passed away. But, yep, Roberta Flack gone now at 88. American skier Michaela Schifrin won her 100th World Cup race yesterday in Italy, setting a record. Ethan, do you care about skiing? All sports, or are you mainly a, non-skiing man?
Kind of when we're around, when the Olympics are around, I watch it, but not really outside of that.
I love it when the Olympics are on. But
I
mean,
do,
it's kind of hard to gauge it outside of that.
Same. Well, she won her 100th World Cup race, and that set a record. She also tied a record for men and women in the World Cup by finishing in the top 3 155 times. Schifrin overcame a serious crash in November to achieve all of this. Her win yesterday was in slalom, which she loves. Fred, skiing?
Oh, yeah, I'm very much, I love it. I love it, but I'm kind of stunned by 155 top 3 finishes.
Yes.
So she was on the medal stand?
Well,
that
she
many
tied,
times?
it's
Wow.
kind of crazy. The record for men and women, she only tied. So there are some seriously good skiers out there.
I'm curious how long she's been around, because I just don't know much about skiing to know how often they're racing. Now obviously sounds like it's impressive, it's a record, but I'm just curious, how long has this career been to where this first started for her?
Yeah, I don't know. I did not look all that up. Let's see.
So
she
long?
is 29 years old, though.
Wow.
It's not that old.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
That's how good she is, people. All right.
Well, I don't even know what age you would start competing, but I mean, they get started super early.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you go down a ski slope and it's always little kids that are going zip, 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 zip.
The one time I told this story to someone last week, the one time I tried to ski, this was in Breckenridge, and I say this all the time, I loved everything about it except for the actual skiing. But on my second day of lessons, because I took like 3-day lessons, not that it helped me, I was walking into the toward the ski instructors, and there were these 2 kids with another instructor.
Yeah.
And the dude was like, "Hey, we're going to go on the blacks today?" And I'm like, he's just joking with him. Well, he wasn't just joking with him.
Because they can handle it.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, oh my
you.
God, I felt so like that was probably the moment where I said, I'm not going to be able to do this. I got 2 8-year-olds who are going to be on the Black Diamonds, and I can't even do a bunny hill.
Same. Fred, you took the boys. Did you take them when they were young?
Yeah, and they both ski today. They like it a lot. But I've told the story. I failed on my first try in ski school. I wiped out the instructor on the final. And so I had to come back in the afternoon for the second try, and that was only for Spanish students. So I stood there and audited the course in Spanish. I know.
Oh, my gosh, that's awesome.
I was bad then,
When
too.
you took the instructor out, what happened?
You're supposed to come to a stop at the end of the hill,
right
in front of the instructor, and the rest of the. Well, I didn't stop. I tried to.
Why would you,
Fred? You tried.
Why would you need to?
You tried. Did you do the? You put the skis together.
Did anyone by any chance get that on video?
No, thankfully no.
So my in-laws were in town this weekend. They told me a great story about how my wife, when she was young, loved skiing. They went a lot. They lived in Minnesota, snow all the time.
Yeah.
And they told this story about how my father-in-law now would have to chase her, little 5-year-old Hannah, down the hill because she would not. She'd turn the corner and just zoom, flying down the corner, and she's just straight, no turning, just straight down, and he's having to chase her down, apologizing to people as he goes along.
Yep, sorry,
that was
sir.
hilarious.
Oh, sorry, sir. Yep, that's pretty much it. I considered it a win if I made it to the bottom without having the ski people patrol come and take me down.
Well, that's how my wife got down the hill. I looked up the hill, and she was coming down holding on to the waist of the instructor coming down the hill.
Fred.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a crazy story. Okay, earlier this month, thieves stole a backpack from a man in France. Okay, and his wallet is inside. So they take the wallet, they go to a corner store, they use his credit card to buy lottery scratch-off tickets and something else. I think it was something awful. I mean, just something from the store. But that's where things get really interesting because the thieves won a rather large jackpot with one of the scratchers, which was worth more than $500,000 in American dollars. So the cashier says they boasted about the win, they were excited, and they left with whatever they bought. I think it was cigarettes. No one has come forward with the winning ticket yet, which makes sense because they bought it with somebody else's card, and the card was stolen. And the thieves would essentially be turning themselves in if they claim the prize of $500K. So what do you do? So the owner of the backpack went to the press and says, listen, here's the deal. I will split the winnings with them if they give back all of his stuff. He says he declined to press charges and they'd get the other half of the jackpot. So will they do it or not?
That's kind of fascinating.
Isn't it?
That is.
The guy has a simple explanation. He's like, without me, they would not have won. But without them, I wouldn't have bought the ticket. I want to offer them to share the winnings. But they're on the clock. They only have 30 days from the date of purchase to claim.
Yeah.
Now, he's working with a lawyer, which is also smart.
Yeah, I don't know if I could trust him.
Keep us posted on that one.
Yeah,
though. I'd love to know if there's any kind of deal that is struck.
Oh, we're too late. I'll do my other thing tomorrow. And finally, it's Who's News. We have today's random fact. There was one team. Well, there was a team that only lasted for one game in the NFL. Do any of you know who that is?
No,
This is a pretty good trivia
nothing.
question. The Tonawanda Cardex Lumbermen from Tonawanda, New York, joined the NFL in 1921, lost 45-0 to the Rochester Jeffersons, and disbanded.
Bring them back. That's better than any name in the NFL. Say it again. What was the name?
Can you say it one more time?
Okay, hang on. It's the Tonawanda. Hold on. Tonawanda Cardex Lumbermen.
Bring them back, baby. Bring them back.
I love that.
Lumber people.
Yeah, I want to see their uniforms for sure. There you go. It's Sue's News from Monday afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk.
That feeling's coming.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
On the roads, I'll tell you what, crews have been dealing with an accident eastbound 6440 approaching Tower Grove, and it has been blocking the left lane since at least 3 o'clock. And we just have a serious jam behind this, but it's eastbound. So it's going against rush hour. If you are headed eastbound, the jam starts at Hampton. Westbound, a little bit slow in that area as well. We've got westbound 44 slowing in front of the Arch grounds, all due to road work at the 55 split. Eastbound 40 lines up about 7th Street across the bridge. Southbound Route 3 slowing at Monsanto. Southbound 55, slow pockets south of Arsenal through Rebus Barracks. Southbound 270. Now, most of the volume there is from Page in pockets down through Doherty Ferry. 44 is slow westbound, ramping on to southbound 270. And out west, 70 westbound, just some moderate volume out, in the Highway K area. And 64, a little slow at N. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, guys, I want to talk about Game Day Men's Health. There are 3 locations in the area. I went to the one in Chesterfield. The game day environment is something I want to focus in on because it's very relaxed. It's comfortable. Matt has a great team out in Chesterfield, and they're going to take great care of you. And if you go in for the first trip, it is a free testosterone and PSA test. So if you have issues related to, poor sleep, mood swings, loss of muscle mass, guys, decreased libido, they have amazing ED treatments that are very unique that address the root causes and provide long-term solutions. Vitamin therapy is something that is growing in popularity, and of course, testosterone replacement therapy. They will test you for free. You go in, it's 1 hour in and out. You don't have to worry about taking the blood work, or they're not going to ship it out. They're going to give you some answers right away and then leave you very, very educated. They'll give you a game plan to move forward to meet your health goals and objectives. You can take some of the medicine at home if you choose. Some guys don't prefer to do that. You can go back in. The office will take great care of you, but you're never going to feel rushed. They'll answer your questions. It's not awkward at all. You get that customized treatment plan, and the pricing is very simple as well. It includes all the medicines and supplies, including a follow-up visit. So to get started today, and again, there are multiple locations. I went to the Game Day Chesterfield location, which is just a few blocks from 6440 and Olive. But if you want to go to Glen Carbon, Illinois, or O'Fallon, Missouri, they can take care of you there as well. Get back to the top of your game, guys, with Game Day Men's Health. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
COVID-19 changed a lot of things, including how much Missouri spends on education. Missouri school districts received almost $3 billion in extra federal money in the last 3 years. But now that pandemic federal assistance is ending. So will the state go back to pre-pandemic spending? Apparently not. The president of the Missouri State Board of Education has said we'll need the mother of all supplemental budgets to cover the drop in revenue. Does that mean taxpayers will have to make up the difference? Experts warned not to consider the federal pandemic money as permanent. So shouldn't education officials have been ready? Why not just go back to pre-pandemic spending? Student enrollment in Missouri has been dropping and will continue to drop. Missourians need a new mindset about public education spending, from more to targeted, effective, and student-based. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from. All that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
On-time news. On your time. Download the Odyssey app and dip in whenever you want. And stay on top of what's happening. 97.1 FM Talk on the Odyssey app. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Traveling in a Friday combi.
Pretty big sports weekend and a lot of basketball this week that we'll highlight. Frank Cusumano from KSTK joins us every Monday and Friday. He'll come up for his regular visit in about 15 minutes. We got John Seiler, who writes at the City Journal, and John has just been on fire when it comes to education policy and some of the woke nonsense that goes on out there. And one of the questions that I think a lot of people have, and this is getting exposed more and more regularly, is how do these universities out there get away with hiring radical after radical after radical? Well, we've got the playbook for that. John's going to guide us through. And then Dan O'Neill's going to join us in the next hour. Now, look, I am kind of going to make it, and we did this really last year soon. It's sad because on my show over the course of the decades, if you will, I talk a lot of sports and I talk baseball. And for example, our friend Scott Jennings, who we see on CNN all the time, is a huge Cardinals fan. So we like to, 90% of the time during the summer with Jennings, well, maybe it's only 70 or 60% of the time now, we'd throw in at the end a little thoughts on the Cardinals and where they are.
Yeah.
Well, that became less and less interesting last year, right? So I didn't do it very much. And we have several guests that I talk baseball with, and I kind of put the kibosh on that because really, who wanted to hear about it? But now we start a new season, Sue.
Yep.
And we have, maybe some expectations that are very low based on what the team has done, and maybe that's a good thing. But Dan O'Neill, who used to write, see, I'm old enough to remember when people wrote columns at the Post-Dispatch that were actually good and worth reading and you'd want to share. Bernie Miklasz used to do columns like that.
Yeah.
Dan O'Neill did columns like that. They don't have Ben Hochman is not that guy. Did you know that guy's on the Clayton School Board, too? Did I tell you that?
No.
Woke Ben Hochman, who he blocked me on Twitter, too. He defends biological boys competing against little girls. He's on the Clayton School Board, which, by the way, when you think about it, shouldn't really shock you if you know the Clayton School Board. But I bring it up because they don't have anyone of that caliber at the Post-Dispatch. The closest would be Derek Gould. And he really is more of a reporter than he is a columnist, if you will. But Dan wrote a great column on Nolan Arenado, and it's really, really on point. He sent it to me over the weekend. He's going to share some thoughts in the next hour. Plus, we'll have audio cut of the day. But let's talk a little tax policy right now. I do want to get Jason Smith on very soon. He's the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, and they have to deal with a lot of these things moving forward, including re-upping on the Trump tax cuts. But Pete Sepp is here. He's the president of the National Taxpayers Union. How are you, Pete? Welcome back to 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, I'm doing well, and I realize we already have something in common. I am a 1983 graduate of Parkway Central.
Oh, my goodness. You're there in the Parkway District. How about that? Well, we love it when we have those the local connections. So when did you leave St. Louis?
I left St. Louis after 3 years at Webster University, got a degree there, and I came to Washington, D.C. in 1988. I've wanted to leave here every single day I go on the job, but here I am 37 years later.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you're in the swamp, and you're really kind of in the thick of things with tax policy right now. I mean, there's even a discussion about laying off a bunch of IRS agents, which is controversial. Maybe let's start with that. What are your thoughts on Trump and Doge kind of sticking it to the IRS with some agents right now, Pete?
Well, every single agency of the federal government can have some fat trimmed from it. There are personnel who either are doing the wrong jobs or not doing their jobs at all. It makes sense to methodically go through each one, figure out where cuts can be made. Now, the IRS touches more people than any single agency in the federal government, especially now when tax filing season is going on. The Doge team needs to be very careful not to lay off folks who are doing things like customer service or processing tax returns. Otherwise, people are not going to get their own money back in an expeditious fashion. We don't want to see that.
By the way, on the customer service for the IRS front, here's what I'll tell you. And I've only experienced this with my accountant in the room with him when he's calling the IRS. But, it's impossible to get a hold of anyone in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult. The IRS defines level of service in some bizarro world fashion where they say, oh, we're providing 88% service. Well, when you count hang-ups as providing service, when you count people who wait an hour as providing service, when you give an answer that says, sorry, taxpayer, your question is out of scope, consult your tax advisor, that counts as service. So, it's all in what you measure, and the IRS's measurement is bunk.
One of the things that you're highlighting is the IRS regulations when it comes to small businesses and encouraging Congress to make changes there, Pete?
Yeah, absolutely. And near the end of the Biden administration, the IRS finalized a bunch of rulemakings. Usually these rulemakings are based either on a law that Congress passes and it needs interpretation, or sometimes the IRS goes out on its own and revises existing regulations. Well, when it comes to small businesses, they are always in the crosshairs of the IRS. When you think about it, they have bigger tax bills than many individuals do, and yet they don't have the legal resources to fight back that many large corporations do. And so they're in the worst possible position, not only to be taken to court, but also to be victims of these rulemakings. And I can name a whole bunch of them, but one example has to do with what's called captive insurance, when a business creates its own insurance company to insure against risks that big insurers won't want to insure them on. That's an incredibly important thing these days, especially with insurance companies, traditional lines, dropping businesses for fire protection or failure of farm equipment, what have you. It's especially important for Missouri small businesses. The IRS hates micro-captive and captive insurance. They have ever since it was created in 1986 and strengthened by Congress in 2015. The service doesn't care. They issued a rulemaking declaring these kinds of transactions suspect, and now thousands of small businesses are under the IRS's scrutiny. It's fortunate that members of Congress are paying attention to this and saying, wait a minute, you're acting out of line, IRS, and we're going to try and repeal this rulemaking that was rushed through in the final weeks of the Biden administration.
So are these companies, these are small businesses that are essentially, and just kind of guide me through this because I'm easily confused. The host is easily confused. These are companies or businesses that are self-insuring and setting up a self-insurance pool, or is it something different?
It's even more than a self-insurance pool in that it's a formal company that's owned by the parent business to provide insurance. So it's like self-insurance, but a little more structured.
So on the other parts of tax policy, I mentioned Jason Smith, who's the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. One of the things that really does need to be priority, or hopefully is a priority, is re-upping on the Trump tax cuts from the first administration. You would agree or disagree on that, Pete?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you think about what could happen if, for example, the 20% deduction that small businesses got under the Trump tax cuts, if that goes away, well, suddenly your tax bill's a lot bigger. If the corporate tax rate goes up, well, then we're going to start seeing businesses doing what are called inversions, leaving this country and headquartering offshore. If the individual tax rates begin creeping up, people will pay 2, 3, 4% more in taxes. If the child tax credit reverts to its original amount, it'll be cut in half if it's allowed to expire from $2,000 to $1,000. Think about what that means for a typical family with 2 kids. Suddenly, you're paying $2,000 more in taxes a year. That's a huge hit,
I think
and it has to be prevented.
It was an undercovered story by the legacy media in the presidential campaign because no one really wanted to put the Democrats' feet to the fire on this and say, hey, are you supporting tax increases for everyone across the country, including businesses? Because essentially, if you're going to repeal the Trump tax cuts, that's what's going to happen. But they kind of got off the hook on that to a certain extent. Pete Sepp is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. We also find out he's a local kid from Parkway Central, 1983. There you go. How about tariffs, Pete? Before I let you go, tariffs are confusing to me, and I think to a lot of people. We're worried that the tariffs will result in higher prices that we pay at Walmart or Amazon or wherever. Thoughts on what he's doing with tariffs right now? Is this a negotiating tool that will work, or could it end up with higher prices for American taxpayers?
Yeah, so far they have worked as a negotiating tool in some instances, but tariffs really are simply taxes on consumers. It's not some foreign country that pays a tariff when the U.S. aims a tariff at one given set of imports. It's the importer here in the United States that pays the tariff. And then what happens? That cost gets passed along to the consumer in the form of higher prices, gets passed along to workers and business owners if they're importing some kind of raw material that they're making into a finished product. And then there's the retaliation that other countries force against us. It is a dangerous game to play. You win it sometimes, but in many cases we lose. And these across-the-board tariffs that the president is contemplating, I think, would basically wipe out the renewal of the Trump tax cuts if all of them took effect. So we have to avoid that. And I think the president's original instinct of zero tariffs, zero subsidies, zero trade barriers is really his better angel that should be guiding him.
So, and again, the threats of the tariffs pressure in negotiating tactics is what our hope is on some of this?
Yes, and that the actual imposition of the tariffs would be a huge cost to consumers. It's already happened in some cases. I mean, that's been happening since the first Trump administration, continued through the Biden administration. If this widens, we're going to have much bigger costs on consumers and average families.
Can you give an example of where, because you have the Treasury Secretary and his team and others negotiating some concessions, is there something that seems obvious as part of a concession that maybe could move this in the other direction, or is it just a bunch of different things that kind of get into the weeds?
There are a lot of different things, but one opportunity is coming up in the reauthorization of the so-called Farm Bill, which is of great interest to a lot of Missourians. You know, the best thing trade policy can do is to help reduce tariffs on our goods overseas and facilitate trade with other countries. That benefits our farmers. The more markets that our farmers can get our goods into, the better. And trade policy is key to that. If we put up more barriers to foreign imports coming here, you can bet they're going to retaliate with tariffs on our farmers. That's going to hurt Missouri.
It's all quite dizzying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully in a good way, you know, because I support a lot of this, but man, it's just even hard to keep on top of it all.
Yeah, it certainly is. And of course, with the IRS, for example, they're doing things behind the scenes that only the most learned tax practitioners can possibly follow. And, you know, tax practitioners don't have the most exciting profession in the world. Trying to explain anything the IRS is doing takes half an hour at the most, or at the least, I should say. And the actions are very consequential. Just so many of these last-minute rulemakings from the IRS that are going to impact taxpayers in big ways. Cryptocurrency, how penalties are levied, partnerships, which are a common business tool. All of them were affected by things the administration did when it was leaving Washington. Trump and Congress have a lot to clean up there. And, for example, Congressman Green from Tennessee is introducing a resolution to repeal that awful rulemaking on captive insurance. There are other lawmakers working on different parts of other IRS rulemakings. They need to prioritize that and level the playing field again for taxpayers.
What happened to that whole idea of all of us doing our taxes on a postcard? Remember that?
Oh,
that whole
yeah.
deal?
Oh, yes. Yes, I mean, that's been around since the 1980s, and it is feasible. I mean, if you think about how you define income, if you agree to a single flat rate, if you allow Americans to retain a level of privacy, you can almost certainly institute something like a postcard-sized tax return. Is that going to happen this year? Well, I'm afraid not.
Probably not, but man, we can still dream, can't we? Pete Sepp, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, have a great week. Cusumano's coming up.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Good afternoon. Okay, on the roads, here's some good news. They've cleared that accident eastbound 6440 as you approach Tower Grove. Now, this thing had been blocking that left lane for quite some time. Traffic has unwound. Westbound, though, some moderate volume from Kings Highway out through McCausland. Eastbound traffic is starting to line up, headed for the Poplar Street Bridge and crossing the bridge. 44 westbound jams in the depressed section right there in front of the Arch grounds to the Poplar. Southbound 55, slow pocket south of Arsenal through Revis Barracks. Westbound 44, a little bit slow, ramping on to southbound 270. Southbound 270, most of the volume there is from Olive down through Ladue Road. And there's an accident out west. Northbound 61, just before North Point Prairie Road, we've got a parking lot back through Highway A. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
I want to talk about Morelli Tuck Pointing. They do exceptional work here in St. Louis, and you can just listen to some of the folks that have been customers of Morelli, like Barry, who says Morelli Tuck Pointing's work was timely, professional, competent, and thorough. The crew worked well as a team with a strong work ethic from start through cleanup. I hear this all the time. I've worked with them for a long time. That's a very consistent review of Morelli Tuck Pointing. Here's Karen that says, saw a Morelli truck across the street from my house, called for a bid for a brick issue on the front of my home, promptly received a bid. Now, she was told the work was about 12 weeks out, but was happy because the crew arrived 4 weeks later, so very, very early. This is true with Larry, too. Based on a positive recommendation from a neighbor, we contacted Morelli to repair a chimney and tuck point the brick front of our house. We felt the estimate was fair, accepted their bid, was projected for a December job completion, but was real happy to get the job completed late October. So there's a little trend there. They can't promise, but look, they're going to work hard, and John and Cindy are very proud of the accomplishments that they've had. It's a family-run operation. It has been for a long time. Morelli Tuck Pointing. Call 314-645-1387. Online at MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Taxes was not knowing your full financial picture. Now Taxes is getting and maximizing your refund all in one place. Credit Karma, where a TurboTax expert can do your taxes for you. They'll get you the most money back, guaranteed. Then you can do more with all that money, all in Credit Karma. Now this is Taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. Get started today. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
Tony LaRussa here. Men, are you running out of stamina rounding third base? If so, call my friends at Victory Men's Health in O'Fallon, Illinois. Scoring at home is important, just as important as crossing the plate with the winning run. VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Story Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Story Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Land Story Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Jesse Jane Duff.
Were those nails on a chalkboard that you just forced me to listen to? I mean, I'm over here now having to pull my ears out because you just wasted 90 seconds of my life.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Every Monday and Friday afternoon, we visit with KSDK Sports Director Frank Cusumano. Today happens to be a Monday. And do we have some Cardinals news that actually is relatively positive as we get into this week, Frank?
Yeah, well, they won a baseball game today. We're excited about that. They beat the Mets 7-4. And some good news, Lucan Baker hit a 3-run bomb today. And then Jordan Walker in the 6th inning drilled one down the line to win the game for the Cardinals. So he seeing the progress of Walker is really, really important. As I said before, I don't see a scenario where the Cardinals could be a good franchise unless Jordan Walker becomes a great player. I mean, when you're the number one prospect in baseball for a couple of years, you got to have him perform because you're not going to sign lucrative free agents. You got to develop your own. And there's no reason why this 6'6", 260-pound specimen can't be a stud in Major League Baseball one day.
Wouldn't there, in theory, be less, and maybe this works out for the better, less pressure on him externally this year because of the expectations of the team, or is that my imagination?
Yeah, I can see your point.
Maybe that helps,
Yeah, it's going to be more conducive for success also knowing that there's not as many options, that he knows finally that he's going to get 600 at-bats. Mark, quick story, is Keith Hernandez, who was a phenom coming up just like Walker, struggled. And then Ken Boyer just told him on an airplane once, I don't care if you go 0 for 100. You are going to be my first baseman every day. And I think Walker knows he's going to be the right fielder every day.
Yeah, and, I think we still have a lot of realistic expectations that he's going to come through for us in the end. Is there any way, it's only 3 games, is there any way to gauge anything else from the last weekend?
I do think you ought to keep an eye on this one right-handed pitcher, Tekoa Roby, who has been highly regarded, but he hasn't been talked about like many of the others. But yesterday, he was throwing in the mid to high 90s. He went 2 scoreless, struck out 3. I think keep an eye on him. He's got a chance to make this team and be effective.
All right, Frank, the Blues are back in action after the big break for the Four Nations, aren't they?
Yeah, and I got to tell you, they played 2 really good games. I mean, they should have beat the best team in hockey, Winnipeg. They allow a goal in the final 30 seconds. They lose it in the shootout. And then last night against a very talented Colorado team led by Nathan McKinnon, they just had this spectacular second period and win it 3-1. Now, Mark, I think the most intriguing question with the Blues right now, and Jeremy Rutherford has written about it in The Athletic, is Jordan Binnington. So all of a sudden he's really popular. He has this incredible overtime victory for Canada, one of the most popular sports figures in Canada right now. And then he comes out last night against Colorado, makes 29 saves on 30 shots. So the question is, you're probably playoffless again. The trade deadline is 12 days ago. Mark, when you have a stock, you want to sell it at its highest.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? So it's going to be a tough question for Doug Armstrong over the next 12 days.
Man, that is interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Mizzou moves up in the rankings after the Alabama victory. They lose over the weekend. That was a tough loss on Saturday night against Arkansas. I kind of think we both knew, and a lot of us knew going in, that was going to be a tough one. They had it within their grasp. That's what's frustrating about that one. They just kind of got cold in the second half.
They did. And when you think of who they were playing against, I know some people look at Arkansas's SEC record, which is 4-5-9, and think, oh, you got to beat them. But Arkansas has elite talent. John Calipari doesn't coach a team unless it's, loaded with 4 and 5 stars. And B, they were in that desperate situation. I mean, they have to win, almost win out to make the tournament or get close to it. So that was a tough game for them. You throw in the fact that Nolan Richardson was in the house. It was in Fayetteville, and it was also a team that was honoring their Final Four championship team from years ago. That was a tough environment from the zoo.
But don't you kind of long for the days, thinking of Nolan Richardson, where they get off the plane at Columbia Regional and the bus would go to the Hearn Center and the Antlers would pull up a side of the bus with a hog head on a stick? That's what I kind of miss in this era of college basketball, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. And Norm Stewart just storming the sidelines. Oh, man, those are the good old days.
The good old days for sure. Listen, have a great week. We'll talk on Friday.
All right, buddy.
All
Thank you,
right, take care. Hopefully some better Cardinals news or good Cardinals news continues.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
On the roads, I'm going to start out west. There was an accident on northbound 61 before you get to North Point Prairie Road, and it left us with a jam behind it. So if you're traveling in that area, it's a slow go back through A. Hopefully that is starting to unwind. We've got eastbound 64. They cleared an accident, but it's left us with heavy traffic approaching Jefferson across the Poplar Street Bridge. 44 westbound is slowing in front of the arch. And westbound 64, that's a slow go. Kings Highway out through McCausland and again at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Southbound 270, some slow-moving traffic page through Olive, but from there down through Doherty Ferry, it's just moderate. At 55, slow pocket south of Arsenal through Revis Barracks. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, let's get you some new windows this winter. You got to start planning now. Probably not an installation too closer to the summer, but that's why you sit down with Banner Construction right now. They have worked for 2+ decades here in St. Louis, 3+ decades. What am I thinking of? To find beautiful, energy-efficient windows for customers, whether you're replacing windows or you're looking at better energy efficiency. Pella windows are beautiful, and they're a certified Pella window contractor. You know, you have different options. It's maybe a little challenging to pick the right one. Banner's going to make it easy on you because Pella offers exceptional energy efficiency, style, design flexibility. They have, of course, all kinds of options, awning, double-hung slider, casement, bow. They have a beautiful assortment of style options, and then even glass and grid options as well. And Pella, just like Banner, stands for quality. Get with Banner Construction today, online at bannerconstruction.com. Ask about the James Hardy Fiber Cement siding as well. Go to bannerconstruction.com or call 314-569-1050. And as Bill Kaufman and Sam P. would say, have a banner day. Banner Construction.
If better health, more energy, and detoxing your body are some of your priorities this year, get Active Liver today and start the year off knowing you're giving your liver some well-deserved relief. You can find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership. So a partner means that we're in this together, and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business is ready for a free IT evaluation, contact ThrottleNet.com to find out how we can support your IT everything.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Seminars can help.
After this hypnosis, I want to eat good food.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about desserts like I used to.
Bridget, how much have you lost now?
I had lost a total of 83 pounds.
Holy cow.
It's easy, it's fun, very relaxing, and very successful.
And I would just say go for it.
Early bird special, only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings. That's right. Seminar Sunday, March 16th, Aviator Hotel and Suites, South I-55 in St. Louis. Weight loss seminar, 11 a.m. Stop smoking seminar, 2 p.m. Or Monday, March 17th. 4 Points by Sheraton, St. Louis, Fairview Heights, Fairview Heights. Weight loss seminar, 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar, 8 p.m. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
All right, we have Dan O'Neill coming up in the next hour. He is a great sports journalist, local author. We're going to talk a little bit about Nolan Arenado, that situation in particular with the Cardinals, but Dan will have thoughts even beyond that. I got an audio cut of the day at 5:45, and John Seiler from the Manhattan Institute coming up after Fox News.
White House sit down. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron expressing optimism that Russia can be convinced to end the war in Ukraine.
A ceasefire or peace deal ending the 3-year war between Russia and Ukraine could include the deployment of European peacekeepers, French President Emmanuel Macron says.
I think we should never say, I will never send any boots on the ground because you give a blank check
to violate any type of commitment.
President Trump says Russian President Vladimir Putin would accept European peacekeepers.
If we do this deal, he's not looking for more war. He doesn't mind, but I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
But on Russian state television Monday, Putin said he has not discussed ending the war in Ukraine in detail with President Trump.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. This is the UN Security Council has approved a U.S.-sponsored resolution that calls for a swift end to the war, but makes no mention of Russian aggression. The vote 10-0, with 5 countries, including France and Britain, abstaining.
Continuing to engage in rhetorical rivalries in New York may make diplomats feel vindicated, but it will not save souls on the battlefield.
U.S. UN Representative Dorothy Shea. Earlier today, the UN General Assembly rejected the U.S. drafted resolution, which only passed after it was amended to state that the conflict was the result of a full-scale invasion by the Russian Federation. Republican Vivek Ramaswamy has kicked off his campaign for governor of Ohio.
We're on the cusp of a new golden age in America right now. A revival of conviction in what it means to be a citizen of this nation.
Ramaswamy ran an unsuccessful campaign for president in 2024. Current governor, Republican Mike DeWine, is term limited. Wall Street, the Dow gained 33, the NASDAQ off 237. America is listening to Fox News.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-Week Challenge. The Metamucil 2-Week Challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 Fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Of early spring for evening plans. Temperatures will be dropping well into the 50s, but it's going to take a little time. Partly cloudy and 40 overnight. Tuesday, sunny. Another beautiful day. 62 for the high. Tuesday night, some clouds, 42. Wednesday, still a changeable sky. A mix of clouds and sunshine. A couple of very light rain showers Wednesday afternoon, and 59. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
I want to guide you into some great eye health care here in St. Louis with Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Samuel Berry, Robert Bersati, and Andrew Royer. We call them the doctors of Ophthalmology Associates. More doctors here in St. Louis trust the doctors for their eye care than any other ophthalmologist. They have a great facility. It's very, very conveniently located, not too far off of Manchester Road and 270, so just a little bit further west from that intersection, and they do great work. And if you need any kind of help here with your eyes, and I take good care of my eyes because in an eye disease many decades ago, I have a retina, it wasn't a retinal detachment. I have a little sclera buckle, it's called, that keeps my right eye from detaching, and it's been fine ever since. But look, I've always taken good care of my eyes because of that. I'm very sensitive to what's going on. I had a real bad case of floaters, which in and of themselves are not bad, but I had a chronic case when it was an eye disease called pars planitis. So don't freak out if you have floaters, but if they're interfering with your eyesight, if you have, cataracts can be an issue. If you're looking at modern LASIK, they can help you with all of that at Ophthalmology Associates. The number is easy to remember, 314-966-5000. The website, youridoc.com for Ophthalmology Associates. Tell them that we sent you in.
Hi, everyone. Brian Kilmeade here with a great announcement, especially everybody here at KFTK. St. Louis, I'm coming to you March 22nd at the factory on stage. You're going to love this unscripted affair. It's going to be patriotic, inspirational, motivational. I'll go through all my books, give you the anecdotes inside Fox. We'll go over the news, the war on history, and the comeback comeback of this guy, Donald Trump. Mark Reardon's going to join me on stage. Maybe some surprises in the lineup. But most of all, I want to see you. BrianKilme.com. Click on tickets. March 22nd at the Factory.
When you've been hurt in an accident, you need a law firm that wins. Onder wins. For over 100 years, Onder Law has been winning for St. Louis. With over $5 billion in negotiated settlements and over $300 million in verdicts, Onder wins. Voted best law firm by STL Today 2 years in a row, Onder wins. Whether it's settlements, verdicts, or awards, Onder wins. If you've been hurt in a car accident, trucking accident, or hurt on the job, Onder Law will get you the money you deserve. At Onder Law, winning is what we do. So when the stakes are high, Onder wins. Call us today for a free consultation. We don't get paid unless we win for you. Dial 314 or 6189-million. That's 314 or 6189, then all zeros. Or visit us online at onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
What's your favorite four-letter word? Chances are you've said it more than a few times dealing with this crazy world we live in. But at Compass Retirement Solutions, our four-letter word of choice is hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. And hope that your retirement plans don't take a back seat. You've watched inflation soar, and maybe your retirement future feels a little uncertain right now. But all hope is not lost. Find out exactly how much risk you're still taking with your investments. Find out how you may be able to save big on taxes. And find out how having a written retirement plan just might give you the hope you've been looking for. Call today to set up a meeting. 314-373-1598. That's 314-373-1598. Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax advice. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Missouri and Illinois. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Looking for SLU men's basketball? You found it right here this weekend on 97.1. Tune in for the Billikens game at 3. Pre-game starting at 2:45. SLU versus Loyola. We're hosting the Billikens game for you right here this Saturday. This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. You're listening to the Mark Reardon Show.
Sue and I, during the break here, we were watching. We got all kinds of television monitors in here, and a Kara Spencer commercial came up, and I said something like, "Man, I just hope that Kara is going to be better for the city because Tish appears to be done." She did an interview with KMOX this morning that was just awful. She spread the blame everywhere but her own office, and it's just embarrassing. And what I'd say about this mayor, and our last mayor was an embarrassment as well, but I used to say this about Charlie Dooley. Remember Charlie Dooley? He was the St. Louis County executive. A very, very nice man.
Yeah.
But Charlie Dooley is better suited, maybe this is what he's doing right now, to run like a charity or something like that, right? That seems to be his skill set, and I think he'd do a fine job. No disrespect to Charlie, but managing St. Louis County government was something that was above his, well, it shouldn't have been above his pay grade, but it was above his ability. But with Tashara, honestly, and I say this with all due disrespect, she's not even someone I'd put in charge of a charity.
Oh, no.
That's how bad, because outside of the policy, take the policy out of it, because let's face it, Kara Spencer's policy is not going to be a whole lot different on some fronts than Tashara's. There's no leadership quality whatsoever. How she got to the point, and I've said this before, I don't know her, and I don't know that I've even met her. She's not without some charm. She could be charming. Her personality is not, dead fish or anything like that, but oh my God, the way that she just wants to blame everyone. I'll play some of the KMOX
It's all
audio.
talk and blaming rather than getting down to business.
Well, and I think at this point she kind of sees the writing on the wall. You know what I'd like? I'd like a big legacy news outlet like 60 Minutes to come back here to St. Louis, and do something different than they did the last time they came to town and say, hey, why is Tashara Jones a one-term mayor?
Yeah.
Maybe it has to do with the fact that the people around her sucked and the people of St. Louis said enough is enough. And we can't, enough with the race baiting and all this nonsense.
They'd have to find facts and actually talk to people.
Well, we'll see what happens. That election is a week from tomorrow, the first round.
Yes.
And the top two vote getters will move on to the second round. And some people the experts, like Gene and Rainford, all the people having the roundtable. Because I don't know the city of St. Louis the way that certainly they do or you do. I haven't lived in the city for a while. But it appears like she might not even make it through the first round.
Well,
that
I
would
hope
be
they're
incredible.
right. I really do.
So John Seiler is back with us. This is great stuff. It kind of ties in a little bit with my trip to Columbia and the University of Missouri as well. He is the Director of Higher Education Policy and a Senior Fellow at the Manhattan Institute and is about to roll out some pretty interesting evidence of, and the piece is called How Universities Get Away with Hiring Radicals. But John has chronicled something at UC Davis, which I think is fascinating. But John Seiler, welcome back. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Before I get into your stuff, because this all kind of folds into the same topic, I've shared this story a little bit with the audience, but just in a synopsis fashion. I had a listener that reached out at the beginning of December and said, "Oh, Mark, I got this audio that's pretty amazing. You're going to want to hear it from the University of Missouri, where I went, my journalism school, the day after the election." And it was a radical professor who, John, in the first 60 seconds, if not the first 30 seconds, the quote was, "Capitalism is idiocy," and then he just goes on and on. It was rather a revolting class, and I happened to bring it to the attention of the dean of the journalism school of the University of Missouri and ended up sharing that audio with the dean because I thought to myself, this is just outrageous. But, I also thought to myself, this is what happens on college campuses. And these professors are like this. I mean, this guy was a Marxist. I don't use that hyperbolically. And you found some very interesting things here at UC Davis with one particular professor, Gemma DeCristo in particular.
Right. So more than a year ago, just days after the 10/7 attack, the Hamas attack on Israel, this UC Davis professor of American Studies, Gemma DeCristo, got on Twitter and started posting first in celebration about various violent protests that were erupting in the Middle East. There are these protests in different Middle Eastern countries, at different Israeli and American embassies. And so DeCristo got on Twitter and started posting, yes, essentially saying, burn it all down, death to America, or rather fire emoji to America, was really enthusiastic about sticking it to the United States and the people who were committing, violent atrocities against the people of Israel. And so then DeCristo goes a step further.
Yeah.
And in a tweet that roused really truly national attention, DeCristo said essentially, one group of people that we know of in the United States are these Zionist journalists. Goes on to say they have houses with addresses and children. They can be afraid of their bosses, but they should fear us more. And then DeCristo used a number of very threatening icons,
right? Like an axe and a knife and blood drops, right? That's what she used. Yeah,
a knife, axe, and 3 blood drops. This is, afterwards there were some more mainstream outlets that reported on it, and they referred to this as an apparent threat. And I don't know if the word apparent really needs to be in there. I don't see any way to read this as anything other than a declaration that you would like to commit violence against the people that you deem to be Zionist propagandists in the United States. This is just an atrocious thing to say. And if it truly is a threat, look, this is not protected speech. There are all sorts of reasons to be careful about what kind of speech you say crosses the line, especially when it comes to higher education. That's important. Free speech is incredibly important. But if this is a threat, then UC Davis really should have taken action.
Yeah, you would think that if someone writes, one group of people we have easy access to in the U.S. are all these Zionist journalists who spread propaganda and misinformation, and went on to say, look, they got houses with kids and, they can fear their bosses. And then she puts the axe and the blood drops in the knife. You would think, I guess my impression would be maybe UC Davis is going to do something about this, but they, more than a year later, almost a year later, have done nothing, right?
Well, here's the crazy thing. So they did open up an investigation, and now even some of the regents in the system are getting upset with the university for not really moving very quickly on this investigation, which actually probably should be pretty cut and dry. The thing, though, that is really interesting is that when the chancellor of UC Davis made his statement saying that, kind of denouncing in a very tepid way, denouncing the statement, he didn't use the name of the professor. He said that this was inconsistent with the university's commitment to social justice. But what's really fascinating, and what I wrote about in my article for City Journal that we're talking about, and what I'm going to be investigating in a new series for City Journal over the next couple of weeks, is that DeCristo was not hired through a normal hiring process where everyone applies and then the best candidate gets the job. Rather, DeCristo was hired through a special hiring program that specifically is meant to bolster the university's purported commitment to social justice. It was precisely that commitment to social justice that the chancellor now has said was so violated by DeCristo's comments that first had DeCristo be recruited to UC Davis in the first place. This is something I call the scholar activist pipeline. And DeCristo is just one example of hundreds of professors throughout the country who were hired through special programs, programs that are lavishly funded by universities or private foundations or even sometimes federal agencies, who are favored precisely because they share an activist vision for higher education. These institutions have worked in tandem to create this scholar activist pipeline, and it's a huge problem for a variety of reasons. But I think that a university professor making overt threats to purported Zionist journalists in the United States, I think that underscores the exact problem that universities have really created for themselves. And it's a problem that really deserves a lot more attention.
I would agree with you, and I can't wait to see what you're going to come out with in the next few weeks. So one thing that you wrote here is usually a postdoctoral fellowship is just a small step in a scholar's career. After a fellowship ends, former postdocs apply to competitive positions on the open market. The diversity-focused fellow-to-faculty model modifies this pathway. This is what you're talking about. First, the program's administrators select fellows with special attention to how they contribute to diversity. Fellows are then heavily favored for often guaranteed tenure-track positions, bypassing a competitive search. It's a side door into the faculty lounge. And this is the DEI crap that you've been highlighting and uncovering for the past several years, John. But this is a little bit more sinister, is what you're basically arguing, isn't it?
Yeah. So a lot of what I've covered over the last couple of years has been the way that university faculty hiring committees have added this extra criterion to the way they review the people who they eventually let onto the faculty. They add this DEI criterion. They say, okay, we're going to evaluate you for your scholarly ability, but we're also going to evaluate you for the way you contribute to diversity, equity, and inclusion through your research, through your service, through all sorts of things like that. Now, this program and the types of programs that I'm going to continue to highlight takes that, but it actually removes a certain level of faculty control that would allow professors who want to just focus on excellence, who want to just focus on their discipline. It removes their ability to even object, because what we have here is a system where the university has set up a program where in the UC system, it's not departments, it's not the physics department or the English department that pick these fellows. Rather, a committee set up by the system, the University of California itself, the system that governs all of the University of California schools. It's a committee that is made by administrators in the system who select these fellows, and they heavily weigh for a fellow's ostensible commitment to DEI, and then they turn around and say, well, if you're hired as a fellow, then search committees or then departments get a special search waiver to take on these fellows as faculty members, and they get a special hiring incentive to take on fellows. And in many cases, as I'll document in future articles, and I'll really go into this in more detail, in many cases, a lot of departments are told by their deans that you can either hire through this program or you're just not going to get a new faculty line. You can hire through this program, or maybe you're just not going to hire someone at all. A lot of professors that I have spoken to, even progressive professors who are otherwise committed generally to the cause of DEI, they've told me that this seems like a way to strong-arm departments into doing what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's ultimately to hire people who have an activist vision for what a university should be.
And, you feature a quote by someone named Abigail Thompson, who was a professor of mathematics at UC Davis, but she's very opposed to this. And one of the things that she says, I thought this quote, sort of going back to what you just referred to, John, is this is such a clever idea, really. No one pays close attention to how these postdocs are hired. Maybe until now, but basically it's kind of a scam that's worked for a while. And ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget the original question that we brought John on to address is, how are so many radicals hired at these universities across the country, right? Well, this is the pipeline.
Exactly. So really what's remarkable is the scope of this kind of program, because so many universities have made a commitment to bolster their diversity numbers, and because they see this as one way that they can make good on that commitment. This is not a half-hearted effort. In the UC system over the last 5 years, the system is of all of their tenure track hires, 5% came from this program. And now 5% of your new hires coming from a program that essentially selects for people who very likely are going to share a staunchly progressive, staunchly activist vision for their academic work, or even just in general, their whole outlook is just staunchly progressive. That's really remarkable. It's really remarkable to select that many of your faculty. Other universities are doing it too. The University of Michigan, over the last, 5-10 years, they through their collegiate fellowship program, which I've written about in the past a little bit, they've hired something like 55 professors. Now that's as big as a whole academic department. That's like saying we want to establish a whole new department and fill it with whomever we would like to fill it with. And in this case, it's DEI advocates. That makes a remarkable imprint on a university, especially because tenured faculty don't go away. When you have tenure, you have it for life. It's very difficult.
To connect the dots further, and you kind of close the column out, but I want to paint this picture for the audience, because then it becomes a little more clear when you look at a postgraduate study guide or something like that, and you see disciplines like critical refugee studies or queer of color critique. That's how those course selections get in the course guide, because you have all these postdoctoral fellows that are coming in pushing all this crap. That's essentially, I'm culling it down quite a bit, John, though, but that's essentially what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, when the faculty are the ones who decide what courses get taught. I mean, broadly speaking, the faculty are ultimately the ones who decide what courses go into the core curriculum. The faculty are the ones who decide who gets hired later on, usually. And so if you start packing the faculty with people who all share this same more radical vision, then of course they're going to be more inclined to say, yeah, if I have an elective I'm going to offer an elective on, like one fellow at University of Chicago on racial capitalism, or I'm going to offer, the courses that are offered by these fellows tend to be entirely fused with, all of the buzzwords that you would expect: critical race theory, decolonization, pretty much anything that has that politicized tinge. You can very easily expect that the person teaching that class, they come from, or very likely could come from, a program like this.
Well, John, I look forward to the next few weeks. You can follow John on Twitter. Give your handle out if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so it's John D. Seiler. It looks like Sailor, Sailer. Keep an eye out, because we have a lot of interesting stuff on the way.
Oh, I cannot wait. I might share some of this audio that I referred to. I think you'll get a kick out of it from the University of Missouri class as well. But, John, keep on them. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're going to talk a little Cardinals baseball from a different perspective. My friend Dan O'Neill, former Post-Dispatch columnist, actually a guy who still knows how to write a column. He's coming up next.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
It's really not a bad commute. Now, if you are westbound on 70, it's a little slow near Jennings Station Road, just moderate volume there and past 94. But we now have a jam on either side of Highway K. There may be an incident there just west of K causing this delay. Southbound 270, moderate volume in pockets from Olive down through Doherty Ferry. Westbound 6440, that's a slow go. It's approaching Kings Highway out past McCausland. Some moderate volume at Ballas and at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Southbound 55, still pretty slow in pockets in the construction zone. South of Arsenal through Rebus Barracks. We've got moderate volume, too, on the Poplar Street Bridge eastbound. And there's road work on the Illinois side, northbound 5570 approaching 157. They've got a lane down, and that's causing a delay. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
My best friend Jenny came over for coffee, said it's cold enough in here to play hockey. Well, my furnace broken, it's already late. Call Jerry Kelly because they're open till 8. JerryKelly.com. They're fast and they're good and they got it going on. Jerry Kelly.
You know, I was thinking about Zero Res today in my own home because it's been about 6 months. I can't even believe it's been 6 months because we had a flurry of dog accidents. My dog Duke, some of you might remember, had to have surgery because he almost died. He had something that was an obstruction, a squeaker toy in his belly, and there was a fair amount of dog vomit that Zero Res had to come up and clean. Now, I usually do the carpets twice a year, and for Zero Res, they kind of get off easy in my home now. We put some hard flooring in some of the rooms, so there's not a ton of carpeting compared to when they were there in the previous period of the summer. But here's the advantage for you and maybe for me as well, because they got a great special for the month of February. 3 rooms starting at $119, and 1 room is free. Mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk. Say, hey, I heard the guy on the radio talking about this deal. What can you do for me? How do you get me on the schedule? 3 rooms starting at $119, a 4th room free. That's $100 in savings right there. On the air duct cleaning side, smart thing to do, $75 off your air duct cleaning. They'll pull up to your home with it looks like a big space-age type van with all kinds of hoses and vacuums that stick out of it. They'll clean all that gunk out of your home. You can do both at the same time and really save a lot of money right now. Make sure you mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk. 3 rooms starting at $119, 1 room free, $75 off your air duct cleaning. ZeroResSTL.com or call 314-474-2020. You spell it backward or forward, it spells the same. Zero Res.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group. Are you worried about market volatility? Are you concerned your money won't last you through retirement?
Hi, I'm Tammy Kershaw, and as a family-owned business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. We have a lot of folks that aren't aware of all the new investment choices that are available, which give you growth and protection from losses at the same time. Are you aware of all the fees that you are currently paying? We can show you how to avoid those fees. So come in now for your free retirement review and get a second opinion on your retirement plan. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. Let us show you how to retire with confidence.
We are proud to say we haven't lost a penny of our clients' money in 39 years, and we won't lose a penny of yours either. Let our family help your family. Call us now at 314-993-9494 or go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
When's the last time you gave your home's exterior a little love? Hi, it's Kim, and if your siding is cracking, it's fading, or just doesn't stand up to our St. Louis weather, it's time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design because they're experts in James Hardy siding, which is this durable, low-maintenance option, and it looks beautiful. Plus, you have customizable colors and textures, and so you can give your home a completely new look while protecting it for decades. Don't wait until the small problems turn into big ones. Visit lakesidearty.com to schedule your free consultation.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
97.1 is excited to welcome Brian Kilmeade back to St. Louis.
Hi, everyone. Brian Kilmeade here. I have great news. I'm going to be joining all of you in St. Louis.
Be a part of this event.
March 22nd, St. Louis. You're going to love it.
Get tickets at briankilmeade.com. Saying what you're thinking. Mark Reardon.
Audio cut of the day coming up here before the end of the hour. I mentioned something in the 4 o'clock hour because I noticed this earlier from, actually it was Ethan Hannaford, my producer, who pointed this out, that sports wagering has been delayed in Missouri, which sucks. I don't like that at all. But Denny Hoskins, the Secretary of State, has something to do with that because of the rules. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It was supposed to kick in June. Now it looks like the fall. By state law, they have to get it going by December 1st of this year. I don't know why this is delayed. We're going to find out. Hopefully, we'll have the Secretary of State on the air with us tomorrow. I have an audio cut of the day coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But let's talk a little baseball. We did that with Frank Cusumano. Dan O'Neill is back with us this afternoon. Sports journalist, local author. He's a legend in St. Louis, ladies and gentlemen. Dan, how are you?
I like I like the label that Sue used earlier, which is non-skier guy.
Yeah,
I think that would fit better.
I think we all, Claire, Fred and you and I might be non-skier guys all together. Look, you sent this column to me about the Cardinals and Nolan Arenado. I think maybe it was on Saturday. I read the whole damn thing. I really liked it, Dan. I say that sincerely. And I think I told you at the time that this is sort of the type of column I used to read in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and we don't have those anymore. But you really spoke to this issue of Nolan Arenado, and I think your words were this Nolan Arenado nonsense surrounding the Cardinals is something, isn't it? And I think a lot of us have felt that way. We love Nolan Arenado. We certainly love the Cardinals. We're very confused by the way that this has kind of been rolled out.
Well, it is unusual, Mark. I mean, I've been in St. Louis my whole life. I can't ever remember any sports team going into its off season announcing that it intended to unload, arguably its best player. I mean, they lost Goldschmidt. They would have moved him, but they didn't have to because he was a free agent. So that's not quite the same thing. They didn't have to do anything there. He just went and signed with somebody else. They didn't try to re-sign him. But once he's removed from the picture, Nolan Arenado is their only remaining, I would argue, legitimate major league player. I mean, they have a couple of other players who have had one good year, maybe. But I'm talking more about a guy who year to year is going to be a pretty good player. So it's really unusual. I mean, I imagine Doug Armstrong going into the offseason for the Blues and announcing that he's going to trade one of their highest profile players. And he's and even talking about teams that are in the market for him, and then talking about being frustrated at not being able to move him. I mean, like I said in the column, it's easier to imagine Doug Armstrong singing the national anthem. I've never seen that before, and so it puts. I'm not saying it's unique to the Cardinals. Maybe this is the way of the world now, but it puts fans in a really awkward place. I think it's sort of like breaking up with a long-term girlfriend, and then a week later inviting her to the family picnic. It's just kind of strange.
Well, because, look, it's one thing, as you indicated, to indicate what's going to go on. Maybe we'll try to trade him. But then to get all the way here to spring training and a couple of weeks into spring training and still not really knowing what the next step is, that's more than a little awkward. Now, Arenado's been handling this very professionally. I guess we don't know all of the things that have happened in the background because he does have a no-trade clause. What do you think a likely scenario is? I mean, do you think something still happens before the regular season? Because that's looking less likely at this point, isn't it?
Well, I think well, you can say that, Mark, but injuries happen.
That's a good
could
point.
happen tomorrow.
Right.
Somebody suffers an injury, and all of a sudden their situation changes dramatically, and they're in the market for a Nolan Arenado. But if you're a fan, what are you supposed to root for here? Are you supposed to root for Arenado to have a good season for the Cardinals? Or are you supposed to root for Arenado to have a good season so that his trade value goes up and somebody is willing to make a deal for him? It's just, and I wrote that column really from a fan standpoint. It's just an odd place to be. It's not the way things used to operate. I compared it to, not that they're the same caliber of player, but I compared it to when Ken Reitz was here in the 70s. And the season Arenado had last year was essentially Ken Reitz at his best in the 70s. And Reitz was a great fielder. He'd hit, between 14, 16 home runs every year, and he'd drive in 65, 70 runs, and he'd hit about 265 or 270. And that was Reitz, MO. And yet he was a valued member of the team. He's one of the most popular Cardinals to play here.
But your line in the column, this is one that really stuck out to me because as you offer that example of Kenny Reitz, you said this, where Arenado is concerned in today's environment, Cardinals management puts it differently. That is, what can we do to put in a brand new third baseman today? And that's seemingly the approach, which is weird. It's just bizarre.
Well, of course, the other point I was making, which is not a new one, but, the financial structure of the game has just gotten to the point where it's, Ken Reitz in his best season was making $85,000 a year. Last season, Arenado made $34.9 million more than that.
That's incredible.
So it puts a whole different perspective on it. And the point is that the finances of baseball have become at least, if not much more important than the actual performance on the field. And so even though you have a player like Nolan Arenado, who in the past has been one of the best players in the league and has been on a slightly downward trend the last couple of years, even though you still have him and you have a team where he would be by far your best, or at least your most proven player, you're looking to unload him because of those finances. And I mean, from a fan standpoint, it's just a completely different game.
Dan O'Neill is here, sports journalist, local author. So in the decades that you've covered this team, it's easy to say this because, of recency, but this is a weird season, Dan, going into this one. No, I mean, I guess my question was going to be, is this like the strangest season that we're heading into with uncertainty over the course of the time that you've covered the Cardinals? Maybe it's not, but it certainly has to be in the top five, perhaps, right?
Well, I would compare it to the early 90s Cardinals. Like, for instance, Mark, today is the 59th birthday of Rene Arocha, who in 1993 was the Cardinals' ace. And so that team, where he won, I think he finished 11-9. That team included players like Rod Brewer, Trip Cromer at shortstop, Ozzie, not Jose, but Ozzie Canseco on left field.
Wow.
It had a bunch of names. Tim Jones was a backup infielder. Had a bunch of names that were basically
forgettable
minor league players that you were hoping would rise to the occasion. And that's sort of where the Cardinals are at right now. They have guys who they think can be good players, so they're going to give them a chance, but they have a whole team full of them. They kind of remind me of my old softball team. We got a bunch of guys who can play first base and a bunch of guys who can catch, and that's about it.
So is there any way, because, look, this is what I've been saying. I'm not going to argue that it's going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me if all of a sudden this team exceeds expectations. Not that they're going to win the division or something like that, but it's possible that Jordan Walker kind of becomes the Jordan Walker that we thought. It's possible that some of these other guys start to, put it together. And I don't know about the pitching, Dan. I'm not sure of the assessment of that. We'll have a better idea here in a few weeks.
Right. Well, yes. And that's what the Cardinals are hoping. I mean, they have these prospects. They have Nolan Gorman. They have Jordan Walker. They were supposed to be can't miss prospects, and then all of a sudden last year they both sort of fell on their sword. They both hit about 200, which doesn't play well in the major leagues. So they're going to give them another chance. And yes, if everything goes well. And they turn out to be the players who the Cardinals think they can be, then the Cardinals will be okay. But really, what bothers me more, Mark, is their pitching staff. Is maybe the worst-looking pitching rotation I've ever seen going into a season.
Ouch.
Without maybe going back to the Rene Arocha, Allen Watson days. I just don't. Steven Matz is a player who's been hurt almost every year. Is he all of a sudden going to be healthy and be a 15-game winner or something? It's just, maybe he is, but it's a little bit hard to buy that. So really, their pitching staff is what worries me, and they have a pretty good bullpen, but just like last season, they're going to wind up burning out their pretty good bullpen, which negates that the advantage that they might have.
Dan, what would you say just about the fans right now? Because we're an educated fan base. We love the Cardinals. We love to see entertaining baseball. We're realistic when it looks like we're not going to win a World Series, but we want to be competitive. But the fans are kind of lost right now because they don't know, what they can. And if they get off to a bad start in April, that could be really, really a long season. If things don't start well. So, I don't know how you come back from that. Obviously, you got to keep moving forward with young players, but this could be potentially very ugly this year.
Yeah, well, I think, Mark, that's a good point, and I think it harkens back to last year. I mean, what did the ballpark look like in September? It was drastically different than it had been in years. So I think really the Cardinals are at a point where they have to win back fans. I don't think they're going to start the season packing the ballpark. So really, it's kind of, I think they're going to have to convince people that they can still put a fairly exciting product on the field and still, have a chance of winning. They're in a terrible division, so it wouldn't surprise me if they can sort of hang in there. They really, really need two guys to come through, and that's Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman. And if those two players are reasonably good, then they should be okay. They should be okay in that division. But another thing I don't understand, Mark, is so they're looking to trade Arenado, and he's agreed to play first base or second base for another team, for Boston per se. And they want to trade him because they want to give Nolan Gorman a chance to play third base. So now they're stuck with Arenado. Well, why wouldn't you still have Nolan Gorman play third base most of the time? And just have Arenado play first base, be part of a first base rotation, DH rotation. If you really want to find out what Nolan Gorman can do, then go ahead and find out, because you've stated publicly that Arenado is not a part of your future. So that part I don't get.
Are you, how much you put on, because I don't know if it's fair to pin a lot of this on Ali Marmol, but what are your thoughts on him overall?
I don't know. They haven't been very good. I mean, you can't base your thoughts on success, but I think you got to give him a decent team and then see what he can do with it. In my opinion, they way overworked their bullpen. They did last year anyway. And if that happens again, I think the same thing will happen with their bullpen. You've got to have a starting rotation. You got to have a few guys who can get you to the sixth or seventh inning. Otherwise, I don't know how you don't burn out your bullpen.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Hey, did you post that column somewhere where people can access it?
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Well,
they can call you.
I will tweet it out. No, I didn't know if you had. Do you have a site at DanO'Neill.com or something like that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's I just started a website. And it's Dan O'Neill. That's EI and 2 L's .net.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Thing.
Look, I'm going to tweet it out right now, Dan, because I thought it was a great column. So I'm going to share it at Mark Reardon, KFTK. But thank you so much. Always great to hook up with you. You weren't even that crabby today. Usually you're more crabby. That's how I gauge it.
Well, that's because the Hall of Famer Fred Brottenheimer got me all juiced up.
Oh, he's awesome. So. Look, as one crabby man to another. I say it with love. We'll talk to you soon. Audio cut of the day is coming up.
Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
If you are westbound on 6440, it's the usual volume, and that means just about Kings Highway out through McCausland is a slow go. And a little bit west of there, just at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 70 westbound looks fine. Moderate volume at K. We've got eastbound 40 slowing a little at Big Bend, but it looks fine approaching the Poplar Street Bridge. There was a little bit of volume past Route 3 coming off of the bridge. Also on the Illinois side, northbound 5570 slowing at 157, where we've got a lane down for road work. And southbound 55 on the Missouri side, slow pocket south of Arsenal, down through Rivas Barracks, and then it opens up. This report brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. 99 years. That's how long Overhead Door Company of St. Louis has been repairing and replacing garage doors for savvy homeowners. For same-day garage door repair 24/7, call Overhead Door Company of St. Louis or schedule online overheaddoorstlewis.com. That's overheaddoorstlewis.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, so you have a situation with the spring home buying and selling market here in St. Louis where things are always constantly changing. You need great experts like Mark and Neil Gelman and the Gelman team with eXp Realty to guide you through. We had Neil on just last week, I think it was, sort of talking about the changes. Some of the homes are sitting a little longer than anticipated. There's still not a lot of supply out there. So why is that? Why aren't some homes selling quicker? What Mark and Neil might say is you don't have it staged properly. People have to go into a home and they have to see the possibilities. And it's tough for a lot of sellers because you're very beholden to your own decor, your decoration, the colors, etc. You might have to do something different to sell that home and get top dollar. And that's what the Gelmans are all about. If you go to their website right now at thegelmanteam.com, there's even a tool that you can use on that site where you can, it's either usually on the top of the page or the bottom of the page, where it says, what's the real current value of your home? Thinking about selling, find your home or condo's value in today's market for free. And then you just enter your address and you can check the price. They won't sell that information, but it gives you a really accurate read of what you'll list your home for with the Gelman team, and you can do that if you hire them to sell your home and find you your next home. The Gelman team with eXp Realty here in St. Louis. They're online at thegelmanteam.com or call 314-336-1991.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
No paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. When you're the victim of a serious car accident, not choosing the best lawyer will cost you. It costs you time, it costs you money, settling too quickly with the insurance company. But here's the good news. Since you don't pay unless we win, you can afford the very best, and that's Kaufman Townsley. Call 314-500-5000 for a no-charge conversation. It costs you nothing to call, but may cost you everything if you don't. Call 314-500-5000.
Taxes was not knowing your full financial picture. Now Taxes is getting and maximizing your refund all in one place. Credit Karma, where a TurboTax expert can do your taxes for you. They'll get you the most money back, guaranteed. Then you can do more with all that money, all in Credit Karma. Now this is Taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. Get started today. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Tuesday, there's an effort to bring back the Second Amendment Preservation Act. We'll talk to our friends from the Missouri Firearms Coalition at 7:35.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, it's my new favorite song, Sue.
Ooh, who is
by
this?
a band named Saint Motel. New album came out on Friday. This one is called Pick Me Up.
Take a little ride down a slippery slope away
I like it quite a bit. I sent some music to Fred over the weekend. Fred likes to dig into new music every once in a while. And I don't know if I sent this one to him, but I sent the album
think he'd
by...
like it.
I think he would too, but there's an album by a guy named Michigander that came out a couple weeks ago that I like quite a bit. So Fred sometimes surprises me with his musical likes and dislikes.
Agreed.
For sure. All right, I typically, now it's 5:49 and 48 seconds. Typically, what would have to happen for me at this very moment, Sue? Think about it. What would I be doing?
Looking for a cut of the day.
No, I wouldn't be doing that. What would I
would
be
you
doing
do?
with my
Oh,
phone here?
forgot.
Yeah,
You'd be
okay. Start
getting
my car,
your car
right?
started, but it's warm.
Okay, I don't have to do it today, but I needed to use it as an example because what I would typically do, and I'm not going to do it today because it's 60.
Right.
I would typically hit my app, and then I would start the car remotely. And sometimes I do this for like 20 or 30 minutes because I'm a wimp and kind of a wuss when it comes to the cold weather. What I do here in St. Louis, Missouri, that I don't have to do today is literally against the law in Ottawa, Canada.
Why?
So the Church of Carbon up there in Canada have decided that parishioners are not allowed to have nice things. So in what they're calling a bold move to combat climate change, the city of Ottawa has introduced a strict bylaw limiting residents from using remote car starters to warm up their vehicles for more, you ready? For more than 1 minute before driving. The law, intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve local air quality, has sparked heated debate, especially given Ottawa's notoriously harsh winters. The new rules allow vehicles to idle for just 60 seconds if the driver is not inside. Yeah, it's illegal in Ottawa, Canada, to heat up your car in sub-zero weather. If you need me to explain any differences between our country and let me just say this, too. There are people in this country, there are people in this city, there are people on the board of St. Louis County government and on the board of aldermen in the city of St. Louis that think that that's a good idea. They would vote for something like that. Why would they do that? Because they're out of their minds crazy. But how insane is that?
Do they say what?
No.
Why?
Well, here's the thing that's
Is it
great
for the
here.
environment
Yeah,
or
of
the
course
kids?
it's for climate change. No,
Yes.
it's all for climate change. But this is what's great here. They actually looked into this at the Free Press, and here's what the news release said: by reducing unnecessary vehicle idling, we are lowering greenhouse gas emissions and improving Ottawa's air quality. If every Ottawa driver reduced daily idling in their vehicles by 2 minutes, carbon dioxide emissions would decrease by about 31.2 million kilograms a year. Well, then the people at the Free Press said, hey, that seems like a lot, right? Heck, that's 32.1 billion grams, or better still, 2.1 trillion milligrams. So when you kind of look at that in terms of millions of tons of CO2, it's actually not that much. And by comparison, China accounts for 12,604 million tons of CO2 equivalents in 2023, squandering anything that Canada might do by every 80 seconds or 1,100 times a day. So this is crazy. But again, there are people in this country that think that things like this are good for us. And this is part of what we're trying to stop, honest to God.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
I haven't talked about this a lot today, but C.Q. Brown was let go over the weekend. He was the chair of the Joint Chiefs, African-American, and he was part of the Biden administration. Now, some people in the military wondering why this happened. Well, C.Q. Brown was woke as hell, and that's why he's not there anymore. Here's what he said in the aftermath of George Floyd. Again, these are military men and women that are supposed to go into combat if necessary for us, but that's not important, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing that's important is George Floyd.
Thinking about how full I am with emotion, not just for George Floyd, but the many African Americans that have suffered the same fate as George Floyd. I'm thinking about protests in my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, the equality expressed in our Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, he sounds like a guy that really loves the country.
And the Constitution that I've sworn my adult life to support and defend.
So what C.Q. Brown should do now that he has more time on his hands right now is perhaps watch the movie The Fall of Minneapolis, and he will see that holding up George Floyd in any way, shape, or form as a hero is repulsive and embarrassing.
I'm thinking about my historic nomination to be the first African American to serve as the Air Force Chief of Staff. I'm thinking about the African Americans that went before me to make this opportunity possible. I'm thinking about the immense expectations that come with this historic nomination, particularly through the lens of current events plaguing our nation.
So his role as chair of the Joint Chiefs wasn't to focus on military fighting men and women in our war machine. His role was to fix centuries of racism.
I'm thinking about how I may have fallen short in my career and will likely continue falling short, living up to all those expectations. I'm thinking about how my nomination provides some hope, but it also comes with a heavy burden. I can't fix centuries of racism in our country, nor can I fix decades of discrimination that may have impacted members of our Air Force.
Well, it shouldn't have been your job in the first place, but somehow he felt it was. And there's a lot of uncomfortability out there. And there's people that say, hey, CQ Brown seemed like a really good guy. And maybe he was. But the focus on a woke military ain't going to fly anymore in this era. There's a new sheriff in town, and there's going to be some painful decisions that are made. And it is what it is. And by the way, CQ Brown and others have had plenty of time to rectify or to change their positions on these things, and they haven't. So those are the decisions that the Trump administration is making. And I, for one, support anti-woke. Have a great night. I'm going to leave you with Saint Motel, Pick Me Up. Great song.
If you missed anything, podcast The Mark Reardon Show at 971talk.com. Dependable traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
It really hasn't been a bad commute. If you are leaving now, 70 is your best bet. It looks great. 6440 still has some slow pockets between Kings Highway and McCausland. And out west, it's fine. And southbound 55, a little moderate volume down at Revis Barracks. We look good on the Poplar Street Bridge, but there's still a jam northbound 5570, headed for 157, where we've got a lane down for road work. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
When you've been hurt in an accident, you need a law firm that wins. Onder wins. For over 100 years, Onder Law has been winning for St. Louis. With over $5 billion in negotiated settlements and over $300 million in verdicts, Onder wins. Voted best law firm by STL Today 2 years in a row, Onder wins. Whether it's settlements, verdicts, or awards, Onder wins. If you've been hurt in a car accident, trucking accident, or hurt on the job, Onder Law will get you the money you deserve. At Onder Law, winning is what we do. So when the stakes are high, Onder wins. Call us today for a free consultation. We don't get paid unless we win for you. Dial 314 or 6189-million. That's 314 or 6189, then all zeros. Or visit us online